to order the regular Board of Trustees meeting for April 28th, 2026. Will you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have a new board seated tonight, and so before we actually call the roll, we'd like to swear in our final officer tonight, Mr. Arnold Olbricht. If you could please come to the front here.
If you can please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Arno Ulbricht,
I, Arno Ulbricht,
do swear by the ever-living God
do swear by the ever-living God
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
the laws of the State of Colorado,
the laws of the State of Colorado,
and the laws of the Town of Berthoud,
and the laws of the Town of Berthoud.
and will faithfully perform the duties
I will faithfully perform the duties
of the office of trustee
of the office of trustee
upon which I am about to enter
upon which I am about to enter
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you for that. A few seconds here, and then we'll call the roll.
Mayor Karsbeck,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Murphy,
Here.
Trustee Soricelli Albrecht,
Here. Oh, I'm sorry to say Albrecht. It's going to be confusing.
We brought this up last week.
Yeah, I know. Albrecht and Albrecht.
We might just have to go with just Soricelli if that helps.
Okay.
Either way.
Trustee Wing,
Present.
Trustee Grace,
Here.
Trustee Anderson,
Here.
and Trustee Albrecht.
Here.
Thank you.
Excellent. We have a full board tonight. We'll move on now to citizen participation. This is a chance for anyone in the audience tonight to speak to something that is not on tonight's agenda. We will not have comment on appointment of Mayor Pro Tem, actions of the board here. Everything else we will, or the update. Everything else we will have comment on. And we are doing something new, bringing to the town that we haven't had in 138 years, and that is an actual timer system that ran by our town clerk. So we were up to Thompson School District type standards, which is great. So if you come to the front here, you'll actually be seeing a light. Green will mean go, yellow will mean you have 30 seconds left, so you're at 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and red means you hit 3 minutes. So hopefully that'll make it more fair on everyone. So I'm not taking control of this. Obviously the clerk will be in control here, and if we do go over time, I'll just politely ask you to wrap comments up. So saying that, we have 4 signed up. And if you could come to the front, to the podium, and state your name and address. And we'll start off with Jack Bayless.
Hello, I'm Jack Ballas, and I live in Berthoud at 825 North 4th Street. I'm here to let you guys know about an accident waiting to happen in Town Park. There are 2 curbs that are built right across 2 handicapped aisles going into the park, and I brought some visuals.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. The top photo shows you these. It's marked by a yellow paint line. These curbs that go across the two handicapped aisles from parking into the park. They kind of disappear at either end. And it's a standard curb about this high. You could see it during the day. On a clear day, it's yellow, but the vertical surface is yellow and there's nothing on top. So the real problem is when you're approaching this curb from the park side, it's almost invisible. I was on my bike and I ride through the park and throughout Berthoud all the time. Never been in this spot. And I'm coming along and I can see the aisle that goes down to the parking area. And I'm looking around and all of a sudden, I'm almost off my bike because I've gone over a curb like this. And it seems to be incomprehensible why it's even there. So my concern is that I was not thrown to the ground. I had both hands on my handlebars. But if somebody has one hand and is thrown to the ground, they could wind up with a broken hip, a broken shoulder, a broken neck. And then comes the paramedics, and then come the lawsuits. So I would advocate that the curb be better marked or else removed completely. You can see the bottom photo. When I was there, it was 4 p.m. There were a lot of dappled sunlight from the trees. There is a yellow stripe about like that, and it's invisible. So on the back side of the paper I just handed out, there's several solutions possible. One is to just rip out the concrete and redo it and remove this curb. Less expensive solutions would be a better paint job so that there's a 12-inch stripe with zebra stripes, black and white, that can be seen in shadow.
Alice, we hit over our 3 minutes here. Apologize here. Learning, this is my first time here. This is great info. Thank you very much. And you also have your phone number on the back here.
Yeah.
Our staff, they didn't get to see this yet, so our town administrator just saw what we're talking about.
Our park, I know this was part of the design conversation during the park design. We'll take another look at it.
Yeah. I just want to say I know where you're coming from. I live 3 houses from there, and
Okay.
this is an issue.
The best solution, bring some rocks over, boulders, and put them near the edge so that it's clearly an obstacle, so that you
We'll
don't
do what we can.
kill yourself going over it.
Thank
Okay.
you very much.
Thank you
for coming
very
in and
much.
talking about this. Sarah Lincoln.
Since Butch, I'm Sarah Lincoln. I live at 236 Highway 56. Since Butch didn't make it here tonight, I'll speak for both of us. I just wanted to let you know that concerning the Newell Farm update and going forward with the concept plan that you will see today, that Wenk and Semple Brown have done a stellar job at this plan so far. And the input that town staff and the port have given is invaluable. So we support it. It's wonderful. Thank you. And thank you for considering it.
Thank you very much. Jeff Heineman.
I don't have to bring my phone up to the podium. Thanks, Christian. So, Jeff Heineman, 1020 North 4th Street, Berthoud. Thanks so much. Congratulations to the new board members. I hope you are energized and motivated to work hard, get things done for the citizens. I mean, local government is really satisfying. You really can get something done when you're working with a collaborative group. And I get so much satisfaction every time I go by the rec center, seeing the parking lot full, people on the skate park, kids on the fields. So I hope your goal is to get stuff done. Anyway, your first task per state law is to appoint a mayor pro tem. It's not a very glamorous position, but it's important in case the mayor can't perform their duties. I was mayor pro tem twice in 16 years of service, 2000, 2002, and the 2018 to 2020. What you want in that position is someone with experience who knows how to run a meeting, who can facilitate consensus and support the board majority. What you don't want is someone with a personal agenda who doesn't follow the trustee code of conduct, who wastes staff time and board time having to review their inappropriate treatment of staff and also undermines majority decision by publicly campaigning against the board after they've lost the vote at the meeting. This is what Sean's done the last 2 years. You can check out the October 14th and 28th Board of Trustees meetings last year when it was under consideration to revoke his appointment. I've also been amazed and disappointed that one of the new trustees has gone to great lengths in the last 2 regular meetings before taking office to publicly allege or imply that the town administrator is either incompetent or unethical. Both times her understanding of the facts and proper procedures has been wrong. Pretty easy to pick up the phone and talk to Chris, most professional and competent administrator. I was on every board that hired every administrator since 1998. Just luck of timing. Chris is the best administrator ever. Anyway, not a good start, but it is just a start. So my friendly advice to the new board members, if your goal is to get things done, working as a team with staff is critical. It seems to me that Sean and Casey are using the same playbook to grasp at straws to block the construction of a new outdoor pool and ball fields that are going to be 100% paid for by a sales tax that was approved by voters for the purpose of getting facilities that are long overdue in town. Anyway, one last note. Casey, I've heard from several people that you're related to and you work for the previous owners and current stewards of Newell Farm. To my knowledge, you've never publicly disclosed this relationship. So it seems to me, especially in light of tonight's agenda, that you owe the citizens a clarification of your possible conflict of interest in any discussions on Newell Farm. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hyman. And for the record, Trustee Grace proactively told me she'll be recusing herself last Saturday. So that was very clear that. Okay, we'll move on now to consent. Would trustees like anything, Trustee Wing, did you want to
Yeah, I would like G removed for a point of discussion.
Excellent. Is there anything else trustees want to remove consent? Consent means generally everyone agrees with it. And if you have any questions or you don't agree with something, just remove it and then we can talk about it.
Could we, for the purpose of just explaining how annexation works, could we remove E? I think it's helpful. I had the luxury of being on the planning commission, so I kind of understand it.
I think that makes a lot of
to
sense.
go through that. And I think for the other new board members, it would be helpful to remove that and just explain how the annexation process happens and where we are.
Thank you. Okay, so we have items E and G removed. Anything else? Is there a motion to approve consent minus items E and G?
Motion to approve consent items minus
Point of order,
E and
Mr. Mayor,
G.
Yes.
on that, it does show that the April 14th minutes are as part of the consent. The new board members really couldn't vote on that since we weren't there. We'd have to abstain. Is it possible just to take that out and vote that separately?
Oh, makes sense. Sure.
Sorry. I'm
No,
sorry.
I actually.
Commissioner Wing.
Minus those who are abstaining, I would recommend make a motion that we approve the consent items minus E and G.
And B, I believe. Correct.
Do you want B removed or we put remove it so you can abstain? Is that why the goal?
Yes.
That makes sense. Okay. So minus items B, E, and G. Is that right? Okay.
Okay.
Is there a second on that?
A second.
Okay. Trustee Wing has moved to approve consent minus B, E, and G. Trustee Grace has seconded. Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Wing,
Yes.
Trustee Grace,
Yes.
Trustee Anderson,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Murphy,
Yes.
Trustee Source Sally Albrecht,
Yes.
Trustee Albrecht,
Yes.
Mayor Karsbeck.
Yes. Items removed from consent will be considered next on the agenda. So we'll just go alphabetically. We'll start with the April 14th, 2026 meeting minutes.
I'll move on item B.
The goal is just to approve it. If you weren't here at that meeting or don't feel comfortable, just you can abstain.
Second.
Okay, so we have a movement by Mayor Pro Tem, second by Trustee Wing. Clerk, can we have a roll call vote?
Trustee Grace,
Abstain.
Mayor Pro Tem Murphy,
Yes.
Trustee Wing,
Yes.
Trustee Ulbricht,
Yes.
Trustee Sorcelli Ulbricht,
Yes.
Trustee Anderson,
Abstain.
Mayor Karsbeck.
Yes. All right. Next would be item E, Berthoud Industrial Annexation Petition Substantial Compliance. This is a resolution. Trustee Anderson, do you want to just bring it up again? You just kind of wanted an overview of the annexation petition process.
Thank you.
I think this is a very good idea.
If-
Thank you. If our Community Development Director, Ann Johnson's here, if you could just briefly give an overview.
Just a point of order on the last item. Should technically Trustee Albrecht have abstained from approving the minutes?
I think so, but
I didn't know
it
if
was
we
pretty
if,
confusing, but yeah.
if we want to clarify that or not. No
Clerk,
biggie
is that
to me.
important? Do you want us to redo that, or I don't know?
It's pretty
The trustees that
technical.
weren't present at that meeting.
Are you
or-
talking about the
April 14th
21st,
minutes?
the April
Yeah.
21st
April.
meeting?
Yeah.
Be the 14th.
It would be the 20. Trustee Anderson, right? It would be 14th. I see. Yep. Because they weren't here for that.
Even if Trustee Albrecht hadn't voted either way, it would have still passed.
You can still pass.
I think
Great.
It's fine.
Moving right along.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Director Johnson? Sorry.
Good evening, Mayor Karsbeck and members of the Town Board of Trustees. So what you have on the consent agenda tonight is just the petition for an annexation that indicates the annexation was filed according to state statute. The discussion tonight is not about the merits of the case, anything like that. It's just saying that the petition was filed according to statute and setting the hearing date for June 9th or June 8th.
Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, if I may, that is the very first step in the annexation process. Can you just give us really quickly the other steps that would follow?
Correct. Thank you, Trustee Anderson. So tonight is establishing that first public hearing and establishing that the petition was filed correctly. The next step will be Planning Commission meeting to discuss annexation and zoning, and then Planning Commission makes a recommendation to the town trustees.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was great.
Thanks.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Are there any
All
further
right.
questions?
Sorry?
Are there further questions?
I think that was great.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you. Director Johnson?
All right. Is there a motion to approve item E, Berthoud Industrial Annexation Petition Substantial Compliance? This is
Motion
read-
to approve item E,
Second.
annexation position.
Thank you. All right. Trustee Wing has moved. Trustee Anderson is second. Clerk, can we have a roll call vote on that?
Trustee Sorcelli Albrecht,
Yes.
Trustee Wing,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Murphy,
Yes.
Trustee Anderson,
Yes.
Trustee Ulbricht,
Yes.
Trustee Grace,
Yes.
Mayor Karsbeck.
Yes. Finally, item G is the Berthoud Recreation Center Shield sponsorship contract. Trustee Wing?
Yeah, just looking for maybe a little input from staff. So this evidently is for the shields for the rec center, $3,000, and then another $500 for a gift card. And I noticed at the pickleball courts, there's one sponsor there. And I just wonder, do we have other people? I mean, it's a great source of revenue. If you could just give us high level, just sort of the whole synopsis of the sponsorships.
I'm not sure I can give you a full rundown. Our rec team put together a sponsorship program. It has a variety of different levels of sponsorship. There are different sites that can be sponsored, like the courts at the gym can be sponsored by one entity, like as naming rights, so to speak. But we do take other sponsors for programs, teams, facilities, all according to that sponsorship program. This is one of our bigger ones. Some of our local businesses do smaller sponsorships. We have a long list of sponsors that support our rec teams.
Okay, but like yeah, an insurance company, State Farm, McDonald's, and then even stepping ahead a little bit as we get to the ball fields. I mean, is that something we're considering? Right, think of all the space you have on a fence and how much we haven't talked about that revenue at all.
Yep.
Right, in any of our financials. So those are all opportunities.
Absolutely.
Great, thank you.
Great. Thank you. All right. Is there a motion to approve item G?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Trustee Anderson has moved on item G. Trustee Wing has seconded. Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Wing,
Yes.
Trustee Grace,
Yes.
Trustee Anderson,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Murphy,
Yes.
Trustee Sorcelli Albrecht,
Yes.
Trustee Albrecht,
Yes.
Mayor Karspeck.
Yes. Excellent. Consent is now approved.
And Mayor Kirschbeck, if I may, I'll just add, we do have a page on our website that kind of outlines that whole program. So on the recreation portion of our website, we have a sponsorship page.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Our second, or our really first agenda item tonight is the appointment of our Mayor Pro Tem. As someone said earlier, the Mayor Pro Tem role is to essentially act in the mayor's absence or incapacitation, but serving the role as chair, occasional other duties, signing checks and whatnot. And this is conducted every time we have an election. So, as a standard process, the clerk will pass out a sheet. You can vote, nominate, and then there's 2 votes. Is that correct, clerk?
Yes, Mayor Karspeck,
Okay.
that is correct.
So you can nominate someone else or yourself, and then each trustee will have 2 options to vote on 2 different people. Though those will be handwritten, the clerk will read those into the record, so those will be read aloud. Looks like you got it.
Do we find out who's nominated before we vote?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that is correct.
Makes sense.
Yeah, the nomination will be. Did I miss anything? I might have said that weird.
No, I believe that covers the process generally. Previously, as part of this process, of course, Mayor Karspeck opens up for nomination or for trustees to step up if they would like to serve as the Mayor Pro Tem. That way the board can get an idea of kind of who's on the ballot, so to speak. And I will pass out slips of paper for each of the trustees. There is space on that paper for you to write your name so that we can announce to the public the vote, so to speak, that each of the trustees have written down, so that is open to the public. You'll indicate your 2 choices, first and second choice, of those trustees who have been nominated or stepped up to serve as Mayor Pro Tem. We will collect those, read them aloud into the record, and then share the results with the trustees.
Excellent.
Would you mind passing those down there?
All right, we all have one. Would anyone like to go ahead and nominate another trustee or themselves?
I would.
Okay, please.
I would like to nominate May Albrecht for the Mayor Pro Tem position.
All right.
Do you want any editorials or just the name?
No, you can. It's up to you.
Okay,
You
just
off, so.
I just think May has done an absolutely outstanding job. Her passion and her feelings for the town come through in everything she does. She's been involved in committees. She's been involved in projects. She stands up for the Historical Society. I think her judgment has been outstanding. She seems to be a bridge builder, a unifier. So I strongly recommend her, and I think she would do an outstanding job.
Thank you. Any others?
Could I make a couple of comments?
Certainly.
Is that okay?
Yeah, I should also said if you need to accept the nomination. So if you're nominated,
I
you
do not
don't.
accept, no, just kidding. I want to address the fact I've never addressed public comment in a derogatory way, but I do want to say I do not want this board to start out divisive. I absolutely honor and respect every person at this table because you stepped up, you volunteered your time, and I don't respect the comments that were made tonight about each member of this board. I have nothing but value for each of you, and whether it's me or not as pro tem, I hope the pro tem supports every single voice on this board and represents that well with our staff and our community and is a servant leader. So that is my hope, regardless of whether I'm pro tem or not. So
Thank you for those comments. I'll give. Please, no applause. One last offer here.
I would like to nominate Casey Grace for the position.
All right, Casey, do you accept?
I accept.
Okay. And we have Trustee Albrecht Sorcelli. Sorcelli Albrecht. Oh my God.
It's gonna be a bit of a
Trustee Grace. Is there any others? Okay, thank you. Yes, go ahead.
I would like to also nominate trustee Karen Anderson.
Okay. I guess, yep, so we have two choices. So we have three, okay. And,
I would like to nominate Arno.
okay, so we got 4 spots now. That's fair. I think you can do I don't know, I never asked that technicality, but you can do multiple ones. So we'll turn it over to clerk. We have 4 spots. Just choose your top 2. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct, Mayor
Ranked in
Karsbeck.
order of your, yeah, okay. So we'll go ahead and do that now, and then fold them in half. They don't actually pass them to the right. Put them up here. That'd be great. That's like a kind of TV game, Jeopardy game or something.
Trustee Wing, May Albrecht, first choice. Arno Albrecht, second choice. Mayor Pro Tem Murphy, first choice Grace, second choice Anderson. Mayor Karsbeck, first choice Soricelli Albrecht, second choice Anderson. Trustee Albrecht, first choice May Albrecht, second choice Arno Albrecht. Trustee Grace, first choice Trustee Anderson, second choice Trustee Soricelli Albrecht. Trustee Anderson, first choice Trustee Soricelli Albrecht, second choice Trustee Grace. Trustee Sorcelli Albrecht. First choice, Trustee Sorcelli Albrecht. Second choice, Trustee Albrecht.
Thank you, clerk.
And with just a moment, I'll total this up and share that result. Okay, so for first choice, Trustee Sorcelli Albrecht has 5. For second choice, Trustee Sorcelli Albrecht has 1. The next highest would be second choice for Trustee Albrecht with 3.
Thank you, clerk. That settles it. Trustee Sorcelli Albrecht, welcome and thank you very much for stepping up.
Congratulations.
Round of applause.
And just to say again, you guys deserve to be here and your voice matters more than mine. So let me serve you in any way.
We will. I'd like to thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, too, for
Hey.
your 2 years here and for stepping up. And it's been a lot of hard work and the agenda planning meetings we do. So I've really enjoyed it.
100%.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Will. Appreciate it. Want to swap it out? You can do that.
Is that up to you?
Mayor Karspeck, we will need a motion on the Mayor Pro
Of
Tem.
course.
Make a motion for Trustee Albrecht for the Mayor Pro Tem position.
Is there a second?
I second.
We have a motion by Trustee Wing, seconded by Trustee Olbricht. Clerk, can we have a roll call vote?
Trustee Murphy,
Yes.
Trustee Albrecht,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Sorcelli Albrecht,
Yes.
Trustee Wing,
Yes.
Trustee Anderson,
Yes.
Trustee Grace,
Yes.
Mayor Karspeck.
Yes. All right. Clerk, would you like them to transition? Is that that's
Certainly, we
Okay.
can take a moment. Thank you.
I know. See,
Thanks.
while you're here?
While we're doing that, Mr. Mayor, if I may,
Please.
again, want to thank Trustee Murphy for his service as Mayor Pro Tem, as you did, but also to say that, as I was thinking about this, reading through the packet, I kept thinking about other organizations I've been involved in and how we always have a succession plan, and it makes more sense to have people rotate in certain positions than it does to have them be too stagnant. And I was thinking at one point, Mr. Mayor, you're going to decide that it's time that you want to sit on the beach and drink your favorite beverage. And when
2
that
years.
time comes, it'll be nice for someone who has actually, at least a few people, Sean and May, who've actually had to sit in your shoes and or follow in your shoes to a certain extent to have some experience. And so I was kind of thinking through how all that would work. So it actually kind of turned out in a way that I have two people who have had the experience and
That's an excellent
have
point.
sat on the board, and so it's probably a
Helps everyone
positive
out.
thing.
That's a great point. All right, we've rotated now, and we'll move on to item. Let's say 3. Is that right? Yep, 3. And that is the town board committee liaisons. We have 4 listed here: Tree Advisory, Historic Preservation Advisory Committee, Parks, Open Space, Recreation and Trails, commonly known as PORT, and Youth Advisory Commission. I guess we could just. Is anyone that's in their roles right now like to remain?
I would.
Okay.
I'm open to staying and also open to anyone else who wants to discuss taking that role.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
And when you ask, I'll be up for that.
Okay. So we'll start out with Tree Advisory Committee. Trustee Murphy's, I think he's been a great liaison and very active. But is there anyone else interested? Okay. So are we fine with leaving that with Trustee Murphy? I think it's in great hands. Thank you
Good.
very much. What a wonderful Arbor Day, by the way. Thank you. Okay. So that'll the third Monday of each month at 5:30. Next is Historic Preservation Advisory Committee. That was formerly done by Trustee Tim Hardy. Clerk, do you mind going over what HPAC does? I can do it. It involves our historic buildings in town. They are involved in designating buildings, reviewing applications for things related to facade grants, right, that are historic. I'll turn it over to you.
That's accurate. Yes,
Okay.
Mayor Karsbeck.
Did I miss anything?
I think that's a good
Okay,
summary.
great.
Thank you.
Also, you get to put up cool plaques on historic properties too. So I have one. I really appreciate HVAC for doing that and going around. Does anyone have any interest in that?
I do, but I need to know when they meet. I don't remember.
They meet on the second Monday of each month at 5:30.
I would definitely love to do that.
Okay. And we can always have backups too. Is anyone else? Well, I guess I'll let you word. If that doesn't work out with you, Trustee Anderson, just let me know. We can find someone else. Great. Thank you for stepping on that. Next would be Parks, Open Space, Recreation, and Trails, and that was formerly done by Trustee Ayers. It's what it is right in their name. Involved in all of our parks programs, any of our open space acquisitions, or following our open space plan. Anything recreation, and of course trails are involved in just about all of that. Is there any interest in that?
I'm interested.
Okay. Is there anyone else? Okay.
I would be interested.
Arnold, you're interested too? How do we want to handle this when we have 2 interested? We could do a vote again?
Is it only, you only require one? Or
Yes,
need
only one, exactly. I'm
But
sorry.
Will,
Yeah.
in the past we've had backups, right? And so they could collaborate, right? And
Backups.
even share responsibilities. I don't know if that's ever been done.
Sure. Okay, great. Yeah, that works. Okay.
Great.
So Trustee Grace will be in the main. If she can't make it, or something else, Trustee Olbricht can join. Thank you. Finally, Youth Advisory Commission, and that was formerly done by Trustee Sorcelli Olbricht.
Yeah, and I was going to put my name in for that. Will, we talked about kind of tag teaming and sharing it, but if the protocol calls for a second chair, I'm happy to do that.
I think it's a liaison position, so I don't know if there's a chair involvement in it. You're kind of liaising from their needs to the board, and the board's needs right back to them. I don't know if we could do, Clerk, can we do 2? I think we should keep it to 1 liaison, probably.
If 2 are interested, I would recommend having 1 liaison and then a backup for the
I'll be your
committee.
backup, and we'll talk through the
Unless you
logistics.
wanna take lead and I could be your.
I'll be your backup,
Okay. Either way.
be your wingman.
Wing. Okay.
The kids, yeah, we need all hands on deck.
Okay, and that will be done by, it'll maintained by Trustee Sorcelli Olbricht. Okay, thank you. So right now we have Trustee Murphy for Trees Advisory Committee, Trustee Anderson for Historic Preservation Advisory Committee, Trustee Grace with a backup of Trustee Olbricht for Parks, Open Space, Recreation, and Trails Committee, and Trustee Sorcelli Olbricht with a backup of Trustee Wing for Youth Advisory Commission. Will that work?
Yes.
Great. Doesn't look like we need a motion on that, right, Clerk?
No,
Yeah,
we
thank
do
you.
not. Thank you so
Excellent.
much.
Thank you. That worked out very well. Thank you, everyone, for stepping up. Next is a appointment to fill our vacancy on the Planning Commission, and that's coming from one stepping off and one getting elected to trustee Anderson, formerly Chair Anderson of the Planning Committee. We had Trustee Murphy and Trustee Wing conducted the interviews for the applicants. I'll turn it over to Trustee Murphy.
Yeah. Trustee Wing, myself, and we had a number of really good candidates. We had let's see, a really good discussion last night, kind of diving into the development issues for the town. I don't know how much everyone's reviewed the applications, but we spent a lot of time kind of covering those elements, as well as just asking kind of the conventional questions. But I want to say thank you to everyone that applied for the position, or the positions. But our decision was to go with Brandon Terrazas and Marlene Butis, diving into the details of kind of their background. Brandon had a lot of government experience with the USDA for a number of years, has definitely the regulatory background. He was very interested in balancing growth and kind of attracting business. He also had substantial experience as a realtor in land management issues, and was able to meet the commitments. He's also a member of his metro district. And then Marlene Butis, she has a lot of experience with the state, doing HR work. She's well aware of operating with Colorado revised statutes. Was definitely interested in engaging with the community. She's a business owner in town. She wanted to make sure that good communication was passed forth to the community on the decisions of the Planning Commission, and was focused on being unbiased in that position, and also could meet the commitment. Do you have anything to add, Trustee Wing?
Just quickly, thank them so much for stepping forward to serve our community. That was awesome. It was a great group, and it was very difficult to make the decision. It wasn't a slam dunk, and every single one of them had really strong assets and different attributes, and it came down to a matter of degrees. And so, really happy for the people who got it, but I'm really happy that the other people who went for it put their name forward, and we're so fortunate to have such a good group of candidates. So it was wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you both for the interviews, as well as staff for interviewing them, and all the applicants agree. Would either of you like to make the motion? Any trustees, any questions on this? Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Trustee Murphy.
No, I'm fine making the motion,
Okay.
unless there's any questions
Second.
to address.
Okay. Well, do you want to go ahead and say their names too? Thanks.
I would like to make a motion to appoint Brandon Terrazas to the Planning Commission for his term, as well as Marlene Butis to the Planning Commission for her term.
Second.
All right. One's 2027, the other's 2028. The motion's made by Trustee Murphy, seconded by Trustee Wing. Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Thank you, Mayor Karspeck. For clarification of the two candidates that will be appointed to the Planning Commission, is there clarification regarding which will have the longer term?
Terrazas has
Yeah.
28.
Brandon was very much the consensus candidate, if you'd agree with that, Trustee Wayne.
I'm fine. I didn't realize that was the situation, to be honest with you. So
I didn't either.
I'm fine supporting that.
Okay, so clerk, for the record, Brandon Terrazas will have the September 30th, 2028, and Marlene Butis will be through September 30th, 2027.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Anderson.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Sorcelli Albrecht.
Yes.
Trustee Albrecht.
Yes.
Trustee Grace.
Yes.
Trustee Wing.
Yes.
Trustee Murphy.
Yes.
Mayor Karspeck.
Yes. All right, our appointments are filled. Move on now to item number 5. This is an introduction, so this means we're just the first reading on this thing. We'll have it considered again on May 12th, but this is the amendment of the municipal code regarding the backflow prevention and cross-connection control. And we have our esteemed Savannah, hello, welcome, coming up here.
Hi, Mayor Grossbeck, trustees. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Savannah Dumler. I'm the project engineer for water utilities. This is Tyler Carpenter, the operations manager for the utilities.
Good evening, Mayor and trustees.
Thanks for coming.
Okay, so we are just doing introduction on what will be an update to the municipal code for section 6.28, and then we'll be adding a new section 6.29. So the reason we're updating this ordinance, in 2024, we actually had a cross connection that resulted in a backflow event. So the potable water was contaminated with, or the potable water was contaminated with non-pot water. It actually resulted in some illnesses in town. Public health is our number one concern. So after that event, we wanted to kind of look into what we can do to make sure that doesn't happen again. And that was a big driving factor for this.
So what drives this ordinance is CDPHE Regulation 11.3.39. It requires us to have a documented cross-connection control program. And this ordinance is going to help bring us into full alignment with state and federal requirements. And Policy 7 further defines that CDPHE Regulation 11.39. The main purpose of this program is to protect the public potable water supply from contamination. And who does this apply to? All commercial, industrial, multifamily, and irrigation connections. Single family is normally exempt unless there is a separate irrigation tap, fire suppression, or a cross connection is identified. This is a brief breakdown of property type and hazard classification. The RPZ, which is a reduced pressure zone assembly, is generally the default for commercial and high hazard sites because it is the most protective assembly available. The town currently has a testing window annually from February 1st to September 1st, and that's to make sure devices can actually get tested, because during winter months irrigation systems get shut off and you don't want to charge a system and have that device freeze, so we try to do it in the warmer months. New test reports, failed tests, and repaired device tests are due within 7 days of testing, and all tests must be completed by a certified backflow tester and repaired by a licensed plumber.
So several HOAs throughout town have the ability to provide non-pot water to their neighborhoods. These actually go to the individual residents, which is great. It helps us, give them water that's not having to go through our water treatment plant. That gives us capacity at the plant, along with, using water that's not dedicated for drinking water. So it's honestly a great source and use of our water, but during the shoulder season, people want to irrigate their lawns, and there is not water running in the ditches yet. Homeowners can, use their hose from their spigot at their house and hand water, but what we have found is people are connecting in and tying the two systems together, which is what led to that event in 2024. So this is that new section that'll be looking at what we can kind of do to prevent that. So part of that is defining that there is nothing a resident can do besides installing an actual backflow preventer and having it test annually that would make this a safe situation. Unless it's installed and tracked by us and we know it's getting tested annually, we have to consider it a cross connection and a potential hazard. There's no valve or vacuum breaker you can put on the system that will adequately test it, protect it. Also part of this, we'll be adding a fine and kind of structure to this and penalties. So for typical backflows, to make sure that they are getting installed within the 90 days, we will be introducing the penalties on that. And then if there is a cross connection violation, if it's found, we have that $1,000 potential fine. If it's an actual cross connection that results in an event, we can go up to the $2,650, plus going after them for the time of the staff, any flushing to do, any damage that was done in the process. It's a pretty lengthy thing when we find that. It stops everything at the water department, and we have to act.
The town administers the program, tracks surveys, annual inspections, and delivers notices. So that is our responsibility as far as the cross connection program. The property owners are responsible to install, test, and maintain the assemblies at their sites.
And then additionally, we're going to be putting on the HOAs to make sure that they are notifying the residents every year to let them know, people come and go. Some people don't realize what's going on, or houses get sold where there is a cross connection and those people don't even know that was a possibility. So that they're getting notified annually from their HOA, and the HOAs will be signing an affidavit saying that they are upholding this program. So this is the first step in this process. We will be holding a public hearing at the first May meeting, so we will be up here to hear the public's comments next time. Then if it's adopted, we will then move to outreach and then the compliance cycle that Tyler talked about.
Yeah, so as mentioned before, Policy 7 further breaks down the industrial, commercial, and multifamily classifications. And normally these properties generally present the highest unacceptable health and safety risk. That's why they're usually deemed a high hazard. And the most protective, again, assembly under Policy 7 is an RPZ, that reduced pressure zone assembly, or an air gap.
So we've already received some public comment, and we wanted to make sure that that gets addressed right now. And one of the things that we want to point out is that this was drafted by the town staff and reviewed by town attorneys. No, backflow testers, no backflow vendors were involved. This is not in place to make money. This is in place to protect the public health. The blanket RPZ requirement, CDPHE allows us to kind of set our standard for what we need. There is this idea that we don't necessarily have to put it on every commercial, but we are also a very small staff. It is a lot to administer these programs. It's a lot to keep track of, and it's just a way to ensure that we are meeting the protection and able to administer the program effectively.
And going to the method route, like an air gap per se, that would require us to visit annually, and going back to, we don't have the staff to check these sites annually, depending on how many there are. It just takes up a lot of time. So if the device is installed, we can confirm that the backflow or potential cross connection is taken care of.
Right of entry, this is always a touchy one. As a town, we do have right to enter a property if there is water service there. The town will always go out of its way to make sure that we are notifying, giving them everything, they need, that it's not just us storming into a private residence or a business, but we do need to also keep the right, if there is a immediate public health issue, we need to be able to shut off the water or access the site. But I do understand that's kind of a touchy subject to people, but it's only really in place for the safety of public health. The hazard determinations, we do not list that out specifically in the ordinance. We are using the CDPHE, that DW7 that Tyler has mentioned, to kind of outline what a hazard is. And then feasibility for not installing a assembly. The argument can be made for older buildings that it's not feasible, and that is something we will handle on a case-by-case basis. It's really hard to put into words what exactly would prevent it from happening. But staffing and building would work with them to figure out how we can protect the community and still meet the state requirements. That's all we had. Do you guys have any questions or concerns?
Thank you, very good. Trustee Wynn?
Yeah, this would not apply to single-family homes if they don't have a cross connection, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. Second, I noticed the omission of the word metro districts for accountability.
So right now, It's HOAs, not metro districts.
So metro
that
districts have multifamily. They have
Well,
they have
they
connections.
just don't have. I guess it could be. We could add the word metro district. That's probably a great catch because it can change in the future.
Okay.
Right now, it's just we have HOAs.
Because there's a lot of them out there, and I
Yeah.
know from personal experience there are cross connections in metro district neighborhoods.
No, and that's It's just as it stands right now, we have HOAs that have them, and our metro districts don't have access to non-pot right now. But we should probably add it for future.
Your metro
cases
districts
regardless.
do have access to non-pot.
Oh, okay.
Right now, though, the HOAs correspond with those metro districts.
I was gonna say, I don't know how that one works.
We've communicated with the HOAs, and they communicate.
So
with the
an
metro
example is
districts.
Huron Lakes. The metro district is the dominant body there. It would seem, and the homeowners association within Huron Lakes is a small subset of the metro district. So it would appear as, and the majority of homes are in the metro district, not in the homeowners. So it would seem like they would be a contact for you.
No, yeah, that is a great catch. Yeah.
Okay.
Other questions? Yes, Justin.
Pursuing the RPZs on high hazard facilities according to the state standards. Is this something you guys see coming to the residential side anytime soon or not really?
We're trying to prevent that. As of right now, CDPHE does not require single-family homes to have devices. We're trying to capture it with 6.29 that have that non-potable source. We're trying to avoid it, but that doesn't necessarily negate that we could look at that in the future. But CDPHE does not require it as of today.
Yeah, there has been talks at the state level of possibly requiring it at every resident, but that's definitely going to be down the line, and they would give us a time to comply for that because they can't just pull the trigger and then expect everyone to install these. So that's always a possibility for the state to change their mind, but as of right now, it's.
I think on the second slide it said we have about 1,100 single-family homes that have that potential for cross connection.
So we would like to avoid added. That would about triple the size of our current program, so that would be a big undertaking.
I only ask because it's not the first time the state's done stuff like this.
Oh,
Yeah, right.
I just want to make sure it's something we're well aware of.
Yes.
That we can deal with if it comes. So, thank you.
I've got some questions.
Great.
I want to expand on the Metro District piece really quickly because we do have HOAs, but HOAs and Metro Districts are identified differently in Colorado revised statutes, and so if you just apply it to HOAs, it will not likely apply to Metro Districts. And then in like the case of the Metro District where I'm located, I don't have an HOA with it. It is just the Metro District that has its own separate covenants. So anyway, just kind of further supporting the fact that it would be helpful to make sure that both HOAs and Metro Districts are named specifically so that we can make sure that it just covers
everyone.
everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you know, Metro Districts will choose to not comply if they don't have to. One of the other questions, is there, so, you know, any properties that, you know, don't meet the new standard, is there going to be a grace period for them to come into compliance? Is this going to be effective immediately upon adoption? What is the?
So the state gives us a timeline upon discovery to provide for these facilities if they're not currently in or meet compliance. And we usually have that 90-day rule. We have in the fee schedule currently those fines that were shown, but they just haven't historically been implemented. So we're trying to enforce that a little harder and try to get these taken care of sooner, because if they go beyond that certain date, then we have to file extensions with the state. And then ultimately, if it goes beyond that, it becomes a violation. And then it requires public notice on the town's behalf. Whether or not an actual backflow event happened, it's still a violation.
All right, a couple of other questions here. Is going to, I think it's slide 11, where you have your implementation plan. Just curious to know if you have a finalized project plan with due dates on each of those specific activities like the outreach and that sort of thing.
So we don't have an actual timeline on that. Currently, the outreach will kind of be ongoing, especially as irrigation's kind of starting to pick up. we'll start doing more public notices, messages on Facebook, things like that.
Yeah, preliminary is getting this through, making sure this passes, and then we
Mhm.
start the outreach then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Understood. I actually have a question for administrator or maybe even our town attorney about just the time frame, because since this is an introduction, this is the first reading, correct? So there's a period of time where it has to be posted and available before we can adopt it or vote on it?
Actually, statutory towns do not have a legal obligation to have a first and a second reading. That's something we've done out of practice.
Okay.
Actually, Kendra and Catherine, who are normally here at our meetings in the same firm as Nick, they've recommended that we no longer do a first and second reading, and they'll talk to you about why that is in the future. But that is a matter of practice. When an ordinance is adopted, there's a 30-day period before it becomes effective unless you adopt it as an emergency ordinance, and there's some specific statutory criteria about how that works. But there is no statutory requirement for some period between introduction and adoption. You could actually adopt it tonight legally.
That'd be great.
Perfect. I think that covers my questions.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Trustees?
I have a few questions. First of all, I want to thank you and staff for putting this together. I know that probably wasn't an easy task because there's a lot of regulations to look at and make sure that interrelating in doing that. So thanks for doing that. First, just to clarify, how many neighborhoods would be impacted by that would be considered high hazard? Is there just three major neighborhoods?
There's 4.
There's 4.
I guess one's not technically online yet, but there will be 4.
There will be 4.
Yes.
And then let me ask, will the residents of those neighborhoods that are they're considered high hazard residents, would they be inspected annually, or they would?
Not at this time.
We would just look to the HOAs and metro districts, upon that revision, that they're guaranteeing us that there is not a cross connection. We're trying to prevent them from getting devices because that is cumbersome. We understand that, even for businesses, but we're trying to prevent that at this time.
But the idea would be that new construction include those devices?
For a commercial industrial site, but not for a single family.
Not for single family.
Correct.
And just to be clear, what we do not want is a cross connection. And so on the residential side, we don't even want to create the opportunity for people to connect the two systems. We want it to be strictly prohibited. The metro districts or HOAs, we deliver the water to them. They deliver it to their customer from a non-potable perspective. And so we want them to be responsible for ensuring that there is no cross connection between our system and what is ultimately their system.
Thank you.
Hopefully that's provides a little clarity.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, there should be that clear, what we call an air gap. There should not be a time where the non-pot and the potable water pipes touch.
Let me ask about, we talked about annual inspections, but, and maybe this is a question for Administrator Kirk, but is the cost of the inspections, because that's obviously more of your time kind of thing, is that in the current budget to be able to do those inspections annually? Is that something that we can absorb in the budget? I just don't know enough about that.
We already do have a robust cross connection control program and backflow ordinance. So a few years ago, both because of some internal choices and some pressure from the state, we implemented a much more rigorous commercial backflow inspection program. And so I think we can easily cover the added burden within the work that we're already doing and with the staff that we have.
Thank you. That's what I was thinking. Probably something that would be absorbed in the current budget. So, okay. Let me ask, and I apologize. This is the due process person. I have to ask these questions, but is there criteria, in other words, for someone if they that they can look at to make sure that they're compliant? In other words, what I'm worried about is someone who was compliant, that maybe there's something that was missed in the inspection or something like that. Would there be something that would allow them to be able to come back to you? Is there a process that would allow them to be able to come back to you and say, "Now, hey, what about this?" And inspector might not have looked at that or whatever. Is there some way that or some process for them to have that kind of conversation?
I mean, we'd always be open for the conversation and maybe do another re-survey, another site survey. We could also, implement like a self-survey, if you will, that they can fill out what they're doing on site and return it back to us.
That's what I was wondering, something like that. Yeah.
That's a so part of the outreach thing is we've been putting some documentation together that will get posted and updated on the website, and one of them actually is like a self-survey. It's particular for homeowners. You know, you move into a new house and you don't even realize that cross connection's a thing. You find out about it, but then how do you go about checking? And it's just kind of a checklist of these are some like things you can look at, just from a kind of community outreach point even as well. And, you know, as Tyler said, we're always open to have the conversation. We are reachable, especially the guys out in the field are always willing to go out. We would much rather come and look at someone's site and find out, nope, you were good, than someone not say something and there be a cross connection.
Thank you for that. One last question. This is mostly, again, another due process question, but it's just because I'm trying to learn here. I apologize. It seems really rudimentary. But if someone does get a fine, is there a process to appeal that fine? Do they go to municipal court? How does that work?
Yeah. If you're in violation of the town's municipal code and ordinances, you're cited into municipal court, and there's a process to go through to present your case and
So then,
for the judge to adjust the fine.
there's due process at that point. All right. Wonderful. Thank you again for doing this and protecting our public health. I appreciate that.
It's over.
Thank you. Now, if there's a cross connection, RPZ is required. Is that what you're saying? Why wouldn't you just disconnect the cross connection and eliminate that?
Well, in cases for like businesses that can pose a threat, if we disconnect it, then they would have to go to that air gap method or something similar, which would require us to do an annual site visit. In an air gap method, you would actually have to have an on-site tank or a cistern, and then ultimately you'd have to install pumps throughout your system to supply water to customers, feed your equipment, or whatever processes you are doing at your facility.
Okay, so it's a lot more involved than
It is a lot more involved, and then it also poses the
Now, once the
water
RPZ is
age.
installed, why would you still have to do annual visits?
No,
Well,
it's
you have to do
an
the
annual
annual test.
inspection, an annual
inspection.
test.
What does that accomplish?
So,
If you know it's already in place.
because they're testing the device to make sure it's operating
Okay.
properly, making sure the check valves open and shut at the appropriate pressures, and or release the water out of the relief on the RPZ.
Thank you.
And not that this, it does put burden on the, business owners versus us, but, when it's an air gap, that's the staff having to go out and look at it annually versus the business owner once a year. They call a backflow tester who's certified to do these. They come on site. They're typically, $75 to $100 for someone to come out, test it, to push the water through to make sure it's working how it should, and then they submit the test to the town, and then no town staff really, it needs to even go on site. It's just we got the certified test.
Thank you.
And that doesn't seem to be abnormal to me just because I've lived in 2 different towns.
It's almost every
They were-
town that's required on almost every commercial.
They required us to do it for residential.
Mhm.
We had to have
Yeah.
a certified tester come out. And then we had to send, by a certain date every year, you had to send in those test results to the town. And if you didn't, they turned your water off.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, it's not abnormal.
No.
Yeah.
Just a couple questions. If these new state regs are applied, what is the difference that we're adding to it? Like, what are the additions that we're adding to those regulations that Berthoud will have?
So the updated one, which is the 0.28, that one, it's really not changing all that much. It's just clearing some things up, making sure it's a very concise, getting kind of rid of that gray area in there so it's clearer.
Our current ordinance kind of has more of a description on how to install a device, not so much a program and how it should be ran. So we're trying to update that and again follow the actual CDPHE guidelines on that.
Mm-hmm. And then the 0.29 is completely new, and then that's really looking at the HOAs or metro districts of how can we get them to kind of help us out as a town and buy into, hey, we're supplying the water to you, we know it's getting to you safe, but you need to help us make sure it's getting to the customer safe and they're not contaminating the drinking water. Because it is the HOA's water once it kind of hits their meter, and then it's going out to the different homes, and then that's where that gray area gets of, it's our potable water, but it's their non-pot water, but they have the risk to contaminate us, so it's kind of getting the HOA's buy-in with that new section.
Okay, thank you. And then how long have we been requiring commercial businesses to install this equipment and do testing?
That would predate me, 2019, if not older than that.
That's about
20.
it's a
Ken,
It
if
should have
you
been
could come to the
implemented a long time ago, but I
yeah.
don't think it was
It
being done.
predates me also. The state has been requiring it and been including it as part of the sanitary survey that they do for the potable water systems for at least late teens, like Tyler said, 2019, 2018. If you recall, so when I came on board, it was kind of a mess. Our program was a mess, and we were constantly sending out notices, and we didn't have any kind of backflow incidents. Our program was flawed, and so we were in violation and had to keep sending stuff out. So that was dating back to, I think 2018 was the first year that they were citing us on, and we were still just trying to fix it at that point.
And so our current existing business owners are very familiar with these requirements? Would you say that? That's
I
true?
would say that, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
Our program, what we do in house, and our coordinating with the businesses is there's a lot of back and forth.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's improving every day, but it has been a constant communication with
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
that answers my question. Thank you.
That was good. Yeah, so do you have an idea of how many businesses? Is this quite a bit? That probably Old Town businesses, I'm guessing?
We currently track about 550 devices as of today.
Okay, but none of those need to be updated to the RPZ, right?
Not to our knowledge.
Okay, right.
Yeah, all of those are
Yeah.
being tracked and should be in compliance, tested annually.
Yeah, for the ones we have on site, they're all in compliance, the ones that we're keeping track of. That's not to say that there might be a business out there that we just haven't come across yet for that aspect.
And we're not going to ask those existing businesses to, but we are going to ask them to.
If we
switch over
find
to-
it upon a discovery and it's deemed necessary, then yes,
Yeah.
we would send them a letter to get a device
So
installed.
if they were to,
But the inspection, they should be doing that anyways on their own, right?
If they have a device,
If they have a device.
Yeah.
yes.
We don't know who does not have a device.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
we don't know what we don't know, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So they already are exposed to having to test annually if they have a device. The shift here is kind of taking the burden off the town, putting it onto a third party.
Yeah, and
Separate
the
from
main
RPZ
focus,
thing.
the main focus being on how to handle the residential side
Okay.
of this, because that is not required. We're still not requiring the actual backflows on the residential. So that's been the main focus of this. As far as the program as it exists, business owners all should have it. It should be being tested annually, and it should be being tracked by the town.
Okay, thank you.
And we're
And how
still-
many, is this, is this dependent on the size of the development, or is an RPZ a standard cost? Is it a fixed cost, or does it depend on
It's a fixed cost depending on the size.
Yeah.
the size? Okay,
And your standard service for residential is usually 3/4, in nominal size. A business might require something larger. Standard average, I'd say, is 2-inch.
okay.
But we do have several sites out there that are 6-inch.
Could you ballpark the 3/4 inch?
3/4 inch is probably $300-$400 for the device itself. A 2-inch is right around $1,000 or $1,200, I want to say. Last time I priced them out.
And
And
then the
then
price to
obviously
install obviously varies based on the
labor,
complexity
yeah.
of the
Yeah.
location, and
Yep.
we don't contract the install, so we don't control the cost of the install.
Thank you. That's all my questions. Any other? Okay, thank you. This is an introduction, but go ahead.
I was just going to say, we did receive an email from a local business owner. It was addressed to Clerk Samora. It was not addressed to the town board, but he asked that it be provided to you, so I just want to make sure you know what this was. It's just a single page.
Okay,
just
thank
gonna
you.
pass it down to you.
And I did say, I did open this up in the beginning, so if there's anyone in the audience that right now wishes to speak to this, if you could come to the front. Thank you. Thank you guys very much.
Do I need to say my address? Does that change?
You don't have to, technically.
Okay.
Yes. Did you write it down?
No.
Okay. Well,
Whitney Way, 349 Welch. Welcome, new trustees. Thank you very much for volunteering your time for the community. My notes are all over the place. My main concern, I've sent multiple emails. This new ordinance would require Homestead Fine Art Gallery to install an RPZ downtown. I did send you guys the details of what this cost City Star to install ours, so you know what those figures are. That 3/4 inch was around $600. Installation, $1,200. Then we have the annual testing. I've sent multiple emails regarding this ordinance because I have serious concern about its impact on our community as written. Blanket RPZ requirements, unclear hazard designation standards, unnecessary burden and costs on existing commercial properties, limited flexibility for alternative backflow prevention methods, and little support or education for property owners. Here's how I think we got here. In May 2022, Berthoud was cited for an inadequate backflow prevention and cross-connection control program. As a small municipality under compliance pressure, the town, naturally outsourced the program management to Aqua Backflow that same month. Now we're considering this ordinance. I appreciate you guys bringing it up in the presentation. The Aqua Backflow absolutely had nothing to do with writing the ordinance. That's great to hear. Because they're a private company and they profit from the fee that's collected with each of those RPZ test reports. It creates a clear financial incentive for expanded compliance programs, annual testing, and increased reporting requirements. To be clear, I believe our town staff are completely good intention. My correspondence with town staff, Tyler here on RPZ installation, has been polite and professional. I also briefly reviewed cross-connection ordinances in neighboring communities. Larger municipalities like Loveland, Longmont, and Fort Collins generally maintain ordinances more aligned with Colorado Health Department public health and environment hazard-based guidance. There is not a blanket RPZ requirement like what is proposed here. It's a bummer that being a small town, that commercial properties are, that business owners have to do more because town staff can't take the time to inspect backflow prevention methods. And I understand that town staff is limited in their time, but that's just a bummer. And just to quote policy 7 that was referenced, it says backflow prevention and cross-connection control rule policy. A controlled cross-connection means a cross-connection that has a properly installed, maintained, and tested or inspected backflow prevention assembly or backflow prevention method. So not just the RPZ. I think my time's up. Thank you.
thank you very much. You're right on time. Thank you. Is there anyone else? All right, thank you. I'll close the public comment and bring it back to the board.
Can we just have a minute to read the email that was passed?
I'm sorry, a second to read
Can
it?
we just have a minute to read the email that was, this is the first time I'm seeing it.
Well, if you're using another type of approved backflow, what do we call it? Backflow methods, that's not an RPZ, that requires the town to go out and inspect that was installed correctly one time, or is the town coming back every year on these non-RPZ ones?
I'll defer to Ken.
So, and jump in here, Tyler, if I misspeak. Yes, there are a few methods that are outlined by the state. The RPZ is the fave. The air gap that Savannah and Tyler mentioned numerous times, that is basically a complete separation. And so, to answer your question, yes, we would have to have staff annually confirm that air gap still exists and that there isn't any cross connection that is reconnected. That's problematic in itself, in my mind. I think that's a bad judgment call as a utility manager, in that you're setting up something that could be then you're in a policing mode, and that's not our job. And we don't want to try to look for ways of somebody skirting the system. So that's the motivation for what we've outlined on this.
Is there a possibility to outsource that inspection, just like you'd outsource an RPZ inspection?
So we are outsourcing the inspection. Actually, we outsource it to the property owners. All the commercial, multifamily, residential, industrial properties in town are responsible for providing an inspection. They can hire whoever they want to for that inspection.
So long as they are certified.
They have to be, they have to be a
Just to
certified
be clear,
backflow
not
tester.
anyone.
I guess
Yeah.
and that's the question. So, but either way, we're policing, because an RPZ is the same thing. We're requiring that the third party come out and inspect every year.
And our police presence involves confirming through the aqua backflow that a test has taken place by a certified backflow tester.
Okay, thank you.
And that's,
So
that's
you're
in
correct.
similar
We are
fashion
policing.
to for building, for instance, we don't our building inspectors don't perform compaction testing for foundations, for instance, but licensed geotechnical firms or engineers do that testing. They provide certified test results that our inspectors review. We could hire our own inspection teams, but in most cases, it's both more efficient and it can be more cost effective for entities to control that inspection themselves, with us verifying that it's been done according to the standards and that they've been certified and stamped by a licensed professional. So
Okay.
it's similar. It's similar in that sense.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And looks like the bulk of this email is a downtown business owner explaining that his property and the neighboring one, homestead, don't have any non-pot system, and they're just feeling like why are we having to do this?
Right, and the requirement for cross connection control doesn't necessarily isn't focused just on non-potable systems. It's and that's probably the big point here is it's a state requirement for multifamily, industrial, commercial, and like schools to have backflow prevention. Anybody with a connected irrigation system and anybody with a fire protection system, you have to have and so that is what we're inspecting. Now, are they a brewery or are they an insurance company? We're not going to distinguish between the two. Is one more hazardous than the other? Yeah, but the rules are the rules. If you're a commercial property, you have to have backflow prevention, and that's not in our authority to waive that.
So that we're not interpreting that. That's pretty strict. By
That is strict. Yeah, it's strict and it's simple, so that it's easy to administer. And if I owned a professional services company and I wasn't processing anything, it'd be a pain. I admit that, but that's not our call.
No, I agree. I think that's a great explanation. Any other questions, trustees? Staff, or we move on to comments?
I have one question. Has a thought maybe, particularly for businesses like the one that we just got the comment about, has there been any thought to phasing them in, giving them a certain period of time to comply, and then maybe some thought to some type of cost sharing arrangement?
And the cost share we have not considered. As Tyler mentioned, when we discover a commercial property that isn't protected, then they have 90 days to comply, and then that fits within our requirement to make sure that they're in our database and we're reporting that they have a tested device. So there is plenty of time, aid to install these things. That could be considered. That sounds to me like that would be something that the Board of Trustees should consider and think about and talk about. I don't think personally that would be a staff recommendation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. And we're just setting a date. We'll be talking about this again, but some thoughts right off the bat. You get out of line. Trustee Murphy, any thoughts right now? Anything you want added by staff?
I appreciate the citizens that have reached out to me and shared some of their experience on this. But I'm comfortable with proceeding right now. I do think in the larger picture, there's multiple issues that our businesses are carrying the cost of. And I think that's something we need to seriously think about going forward on some elements of cost sharing. I think this would be a good topic for our strategic planning, but as of right now, I'm okay proceeding.
Thank you. Okay. Trustee Anderson? Anything you'd like added or before we see it again?
No, I appreciate the effort that went into creating the proposed ordinance. I too think that maybe we ruminate a little bit about some type of cost sharing program or some way to help our businesses be able to come into compliance and remain in compliance. So, but I would, at this point, I don't have any other comments.
Trustee Grace?
So being the new person here, I feel like I read through the packet, I read the email that came in, and then I quickly read the printed one that came in. Honestly, I would just like to ask for maybe like one more additional, like, I don't know, study session, or bring it back to the next meeting before we actually like vote to approve to move forward with this.
Definitely.
So that we can get more information and make sure that we are considering, I feel like for the, the newer developments, this is gonna be a bit of an easier requirement, but we have old historic buildings in town, and, making sure that we are supporting our businesses properly before we go updating our municipal code, which is codified, right? And they have to follow it. I think we should address that first before we move forward with setting the clock on moving forward with the ordinance. Not to say the ordinance is bad. I really like it. Needed an update, definitely. But I think if we could just review it and make sure that the language is supportive to historic buildings, our businesses, to new development, old development, I think that would be really beneficial to everybody in town.
Thank you. Trustee Olbrecht?
It looks like there's a lot of protections already in place. So, it sounds like we're just trying to expand on those and make sure that safeguards are in place. I know on a lot of the newer homes, there is no cross contamination residentially. So I hope it doesn't go to residences, commercial, industrial. Again, if they have backflow already and they're being tested annually, and you have to put it in RPZ and test that annually, you're still having to do the annual testing. So I don't see really a huge advantage to that. But I think there should be something in place if they don't have a backflow already. It's. I think it needs a little bit more of a study before we commence.
Trustee Wing?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of regulation and bureaucracy, but I did live in a neighborhood in California. We did have a contamination. We had it over and over and over, and we couldn't shower. We couldn't cook with our water. We couldn't do it. We couldn't use the toilets. Everything was bottled water. So, this is a serious issue. It can have ramifications, so I support the ordinance.
Thank you. Okay. Trustee or Mayor Pro Tem?
I think the policy is good. It's needed for public health. I also agree with the sentiments that we need to think about the burden on businesses, and perhaps in the study session, we can discuss all of the fees and different elements of permitting process they have to go through, because this is a hot topic that keeps coming up, is how much it costs to do business in Berthoud for a small business owner, and this is just one of the costs. I think it's mostly hard on businesses because this is being implemented now, and once these are in place, it won't cost future business owners to put the infrastructure in. But I am wondering if we could have discussions about staff doing the testing process, because that might alleviate some of that lift and burden, is that they are going in and testing things appropriately, making sure that everything is on par. So that would just be my recommendation, is we have a larger conversation, and then policy's good. let's talk about business burden, and then also what can staff effectively take on, and obviously what the cost is for staff to do that.
And for my clarification, take on, you mean like, the inspection versus.
The inspection, the testing.
Versus having a third party do it?
And yeah, and have that discussion of whether that could be really helpful or beneficial to businesses or not.
Okay. I really appreciate staff's presentation. That really shined a lot of light on this to me. I was a little more skeptical going in, but I do understand now. And like Trustee Olbert said, a lot of this is already being administrated or required. I also share, I think we're all in agreement here that this can be a burden, and I love the idea of looking into a cost share. So I would be in favor of that. I mean, we do that for other things with businesses and also for treating trees on tree lawns for the Emerald Ash Borer. That's shared with the town too. And yeah, not all businesses, are multimillionaires, and getting hit with several $1,000s might be unexpected. So if we can help out that way. But yeah, I would just like to, I guess personally, just like to see what the cost might be for a cost share. I don't know if we could get that in that amount of time, or what this overall burden would be, Chris, you think? Or is that pretty hard to identify?
I think we could probably work something out. If we can't, we'll let you know.
Okay, so right now it seems like it'll come back to us, but we'll have maybe some modifications for a cost share, and then if staff took this over, what that would look like, I guess the burden for staff. Is there anything I'm missing? This will be another conversation, so we're not voting tonight on approving.
Okay.
I heard what you were saying.
So does that mean that when it comes back, that's when we'll have more discussion? Will we have a study session in between to get more information? How does that work?
Well, I was just gonna go right at that one, and if the board doesn't like it, we'd vote no. But we can have a study session in the meantime.
Just so we're clear, you're never obligated to adopt an ordinance. It's a legislative act that you're choosing to make. So when we bring it back to you next time, we'll make some modifications based on the discussion tonight. We'll provide you the information that you've requested. If you're not prepared to adopt it that night, we schedule it for another night, or you don't adopt it at all and you tell us not to bring it back. So those are all things that are options at your next regular meeting.
Does that work for you guys, or open to a study session too? Okay. Okay. Is there anything else I'm missing? Any questions by staff?
I don't think so.
Okay, thank you. And we're gonna have to actually set a date here, aren't we?
Suggest May 12th.
Would someone like to move on that? Oh, Clerk, do you need scheduled for final consideration at the May 12th, 2076 Town Board meeting?
Mayor Karspek, we will bring the ordinance back at the next meeting. There is no motion necessary.
Thank you very much. All right, how are we doing, team? Do we want to keep going or take a break?
Yeah, keep going.
Okay.
Well, that's the group.
Okay.
We'll take a short break, stretch legs, get blood flow.
All right. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Here on the side of caution here. We'll take a 5-minute break.
smell of it.
Oh, did you want? Alrighty, we are all back. Thank you, everyone. I'll call the meeting back to order. Let's move on now to item number 6, which is the 2026 Drought Response Plan update. And this is also by our Director of Water Utilities, Ken Matthews, and Alex Tennant, our Water Resources Administrator.
Thank you, Mayor Karspeck, Board of Trustees. So we've all heard, you've heard a lot from me about the drought this year. Most, if not all, of the state is under this drought. Most of it is in severe in nature. I would say most of the arid west of the U.S. also falls into this category. It hits us two different ways. One is our ability to treat water and get it out to the customers during these peak periods. Although we got a pretty good handle on that. We have very good capacity at our water plant. We have a good relationship with the Little Thompson Water District to help us with our peak periods. Where the concern really is on the water resources side of it. And that's why I have Alex here with me today. He's our water resources administrator. And so he's going to kind of walk you through what it looks like, why we're here talking, and then what we're doing now and into the summer to manage this issue.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Ken. Again, I'm Alex Tennant, Water Resources Administrator. Looking at, can you hear me okay? I'm a little tall. Okay, just want to make sure with the mic.
I'm going to tilt the microphone up a little bit more to catch your.
Okay. There we go. Cool. So looking to start, look at a big picture across the state. As you can see, the U.S. Drought Monitor as of last week is bleak, extreme drought. Exceptional drought as we can see in Larimer County. We are in not the darkest red. We are in the slightly less dark blood red color. So, that's a little bit of a silver lining here. But to look at some numbers, this is the worst snowpack on record. Currently, the South Platte Basin, which is all of the Front Range, Poudre, Big Thompson, St. Vrain, Boulder, all the way into kind of the Denver metro area, we're at about 16% of average. April should usually be the peak snowpack, but we are, you can look at the mountains and see that it's not a good situation. When you look at the Colorado River Basin, it's about 20 or 22%, a little bit higher, but still, when we should have feet of snow in the mountains, there's just not that snowpack right now. So that I'm going to jump down to number 3. What that means is it reduces the projected stream flows. And so, we've had a lot of discussions with the river commissioners, the Bureau of Reclamation, who manages releases from Estes Park into the Big Thompson, just discussing, our strategy and kind of our outlook for the season. They have exercised, caution and just said to really just be in contact essentially every day. So I will be reaching out to, many different entities as we move through the season. Looking at regional watering restrictions, many cities in the Denver metro area are under mandatory watering restrictions. Antero Reservoir is going to be drained for water supply, and so that area, and you look at Dillon Reservoir is in a dire condition up in the mountains. But when you look at the northern Front Range, most of the local communities are just under voluntary restrictions. There are a few that are under mandatory, that kind of exceptional issues, reliance on ditch company shares that just aren't quite there, or we're not able to store this year. That's usually where those mandatory restrictions come from. We were fortunate to have a decent year going into last summer and last fall, so there was some storage that's been carried over into this year, and that's kind of where the northern communities fall into this voluntary category. Then lastly, for this slide, looking at Windy Gap, we are not anticipating any pumping. We had very little allocation from last year. It was like 60 or so acre feet, so that's we have a portion of that in our account still. But looking ahead to this year, the Windy Gap system likely will not be pumping, and so that's a consideration that we put into this review. Looking at the CBT quota, so CBT is the Colorado Big Thompson project. That's where we get most of our water throughout the entire year. the initial quota was 50% in the November board meeting. That the middle box should say November. That's standard. That's just to get everyone who is a CBT shareholder started at the beginning of the water year. The water year runs November through October. Just kind of coincides with the irrigation season. And so 50% is what we got. We normally, for the April quota or allocation, we'd normally expect 70%, but this year, after a lot of discussion and looking at the local conditions, they decided to do an 80% quota. That's obviously good for Berthoud. That quota dumps an extra 326 and change acre feet into our account. But when you look at 70 to 80%, that's just about a little over 100 acre foot change. So certainly helpful for just for us to project out through the end of October. Any questions before I move on?
When 70%, is that of a CBT unit or 70% of an acre foot? What is this percentage of?
Both. Yeah. So one unit, you can consider one unit of CBT as 1 acre foot. And the average historical average is about 70%, and so that's mostly what folks look for is 0.7 of an acre foot. We own 1,088 units, so that comes down to just over 700 or 800 acre feet when you look at the different.
You guys have done a really good job in the past with some really detailed explanations. We've just got a bunch of new folks here.
Sure.
Are you able to translate what 1,000 CBT units or acre feet relates to, like, number of homes, just so they can get a reference of what this means?
Yeah, great question. So for our development and water dedication requirements, we require 4/10 of an acre foot is 1 SFE. That's a standard lot between I think it's 3,500 to 12,000 square feet. Goes up if you go above that lot size. So that's a big, that's kind of how we translate back and forth between lot sizes and kind of the expected acre foot required for indoor and outdoor use. When we look at our total treatment, I think in 2025 it was just over 2,000 acre feet of treated water and delivered. So going into kind of the next slide, we have our water supplies. This is taking a look at where we are today, looking at our all of the different supplies that we have available for treated water. CBT, based off of the quota, we're at about 510. We have some CBT carryover water. We're able to carry over 20% of our total shares, and so that comes out after some use from over the winter. We're at 141. You can see that Windy Gap pumped is 22 acre feet. Handy shares, we have 7.5 chain shares. We have just under 50 total handy shares, but those are not changed, so they can be used for irrigation or non-pot use within the town, but they cannot be used for treated water. And then the big one is our decree water. So that decree water begins April 27th. So we started running decree water on Monday. That runs all the way through October 31st. We are decreed for just under 2,300 acre feet or so. So for the peak portion of the summer when we have the most treatment, that's our preferred source, and we can treat most of our demand with that decree water.
Can you define what that is?
Decree water?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the town of Berthoud owns a portion of the number 1 priority on the Big Thompson River. So it is essentially a direct flow water right where we have the ability to store it in Berthoud Reservoir, but otherwise it is mostly just we call for it, we make an order, and we deliver it directly into our treatment plant. Trying to think what else. That's we have 7.14 CFS is our decreed right. Of that, 3 CFS is like the highest decree, quote unquote, and that's kind of a guaranteed portion. And then above that's 4.1. That is that is part of the number 1 priority, but it can be curtailed on a pro rata basis with other owners of the number 1 priority. Not to muddy the waters, but there are this number 1 priority was a lot larger in the past, and then it was broken up into different ditch companies and communities. The city of Loveland owns a portion of it, but Berthoud's portion is 7.1 CFS.
So the number 1 tier almost makes it priority, makes it a guarantee for us, pretty close.
Pretty close. You know, there are some operational constraints with the Big Thompson itself, but otherwise, that especially that 3 CFS number, that's you know, it's almost guaranteed. So.
This is a good question. Industry clerk, are we probably also going to have a Water 101 sometimes here?
Yes, we will.
Okay, so if any of you trustees, whether it's CBT or who's handy, all this stuff, we'll go into depth on that later in the year.
Yep. Yeah. No. Great.
It's still great to me.
I know.
Yeah,
Well, and I start
101.
talking, and then I could just keep talking forever. So we'll have you know, other staff, and we can have some of our consultants potentially join and go through some of this.
Yeah,
which
you do a great job at it.
Yeah.
That's it for tonight.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So for the decree water, you know, our biggest projection and working with those consultants is to look at about half of the yield. You know, that 3 and the 4.1, you know, we're kind of looking at you know, what the guarantee is for our 3 CFS portion of the number 1, and then a curtailed amount. You know, that's kind of our most conservative estimate, and where we have our supplies, looking at the 1787 as of today. Looking at the demand side, so this is projected water needed for the rest of the year. You know, I mentioned around 2,000, 2,100 acre feet. We've already, you know, from November through April, we've treated, I think it's upwards of 500 or so acre feet. But looking at the projected water through October, we're looking at about 1,531. And so the other two numbers, so the supply available after subtracting carryover, that carryover number is, you know, we're able to carry over up to 241 acre feet. That's really a look at future years and kind of a drought barrier going into 2027. I've worked, you know, in other municipalities and talked with other municipalities, and if they have the ability to carry over, everyone tries to do so, just as a, you know, a buffer going into the next year. So that's one of the things that we've projected, and you know, with all of our numbers with the decree water, you know, we've come down to about 1545. So there is a little bit of a gap. You know, it's not much of a gap, 1545 to 1531, but you can kind of think of it as a, you know, a gap on top of a gap of water, looking ahead for the rest of the year. And
There's calendar years, fiscal years. What's a water year?
so the water year, and it can get a little confusing too. The state indicates the water year is October through September. However, the CBT, or the Big Thompson project with Northern, is November through October 31st. So when I think of the water year and how we administer, November 1st is kind of the reset. And what that means is, with our CBT water, then, you know, our ownership of 1,088 units, that essentially resets to 0, and then we get that initial, you know, 50% quota or whatever Northern Water determines is available. So it kind of ends, you know, it's not like if we get too low into our supplies going into, you know, November, that we just don't have anything available. It's kind of the reset date. And then looking ahead at decree water, it runs from the end of April through October. So that's, again, another reset. And that just starts based off, you know, hydrology, just what's available in the river. So other mitigating factors. So this doesn't include, these numbers don't include water that's already stored in Berthoud Reservoir. We're running our decree water right now and storing, you know, excess. We dropped the levels of Berthoud Reservoir down. I saw, you know, a comment on social media, you know, asking why Berthoud Reservoir looks so low, and that's the reason. Is we like to, it's kind of we like to store excess water, but it also flushes the water quality as we get into the irrigation season. So it doesn't include that excess water. That adds water to our total supply. And then it also doesn't include non-pot sources, our excess handy. We have some other sources that we've stored over the winter that we're prepared to provide to those non-pot users. And then, like I said, this projection is intentionally conservative. Actual demand could be lower, and actual supply or yields of our water rights could certainly be higher.
Alex, could you just clarify for me? This says that this is projecting through the 2027 year of the demand and our ability to meet that demand. So this is going through next year, through October?
No, so this is just through the end of October 26. The top, that 27 number, is looking and considering the carryover that we'll be able to have going into 2027. So we will have, you know, an extra, if we hit our numbers and everything, works like we projected, we'll have that extra 241 acre feet going into next year on top of all of the supplies that will be reallocated.
I see.
Yeah. Does that answer your question?
It does, yes.
Okay. So conservation and water use efficiency. At this time, staff does not see a need for mandatory watering restrictions. However, voluntary conservation is strongly encouraged for residents, HOAs, metro districts, businesses, and parks. All uses within town. Some of the best practices that we suggest, which other communities do as well, is the standard watering window. Watering between 6 p.m. and 10 a.m. If when you're watering throughout the heat of the day, all that does is, a large portion of it goes to evaporation. It gets worse throughout the, kind of that afternoon, and especially once we get into later in the season and in the peak heat and if there's dry conditions. The next one is really one of the bigger ones, and that's active sprinkler management. The suggestion is 2 days a week. In this time of year, especially if we're getting some rain, 1 day a week can suffice. I know that there's some dry lawns out there, but May 1st is kind of that beginning of the season, so we've suggested that folks hold off on watering. And now that we're getting into the watering season, the 1 to 2 days a week is preferred. And I've heard from other folks in the community and water managers that oftentimes you could move into a house and you have a sprinkler system that was set at 5 days a week. So just active management of your sprinkler systems, looking to see where it's set, and then I'll jump ahead to the partner programs. Resource Central partners with the town of Berthoud. They have a lot of great programs, and the best one is it's a free water audit for outdoor use. I live in town, and I did one of those a few years back. It was great. They come out with little plastic cups, put it all over your yard, run your sprinkler system, and then you can see, are you watering evenly? Is it a little patchy? Do you have any leaks? Or kind of what is the status of your system? And so that can certainly be helpful. And they print out a multi-page report and can give you suggestions on how long to water, and different potential different types of grasses you can overseed, or just kind of some soil conditions. So great resource. I know it's free. At least you get one free one for residential. I believe commercial and industrial you can do a free outdoor audit as well. But other resources, Northern Water, they have a lot of great literature and handouts, as well as CSU Extension, and then Garden in a Box is provided by the town. Other seminars in the area, and then just looking up other landscape guidance that's available. The last one is Smart Parks Irrigation. So one thing that we've worked with Parks and Public Works staff. All town properties nearly all town properties use smart controllers that adjust schedules to real-time conditions, but prioritizing athletic fields and young trees. As we get into the sports season, you don't want dry grass injuring kids, and so you may see that some of the parks and ball fields are being irrigated on town properties, and that's kind of the main thing, is to make sure that we have we don't injure kids out there and adults, and also if you're running on grass and tamping it down too much, you can hurt that grass, and it costs everyone money to replant that. And then with the community outreach portion, so we've had a lot of active outreach across multiple channels. The main one is berthoud.org. We updated the main page. There's a little kind of update with the picture that I showed first, but then there's a whole page under the residents tab that shows just these watering best practices, current drought status, and then some of the local resources. So a lot of the links that I've talked about and different resources, all the links are on our town website. HOAs, metro districts, and just high use industries in general. We've had direct outreach with a lot of them as well, just looking at talking about the drought conditions, requesting voluntary reductions, and then also discussing conservation options that they have within their control. Some of them are private systems, so they have sometimes even better control than the town does on who can water and what days, and so they've been very receptive to working with staff as we go into this irrigation season. Internal coordination, as I talked about before, just talking with Public Works and Park staff, just looking at drought conditions, irrigation schedules, when we should start up, systems, when non-pot's going to come online, and just making sure that we have consistent messaging. I did an interview with the Weekly Surveyor this morning, so talking with them, get that media blast out as well, and kind of have a dialogue through the surveyor. It was great to just kind of talk about the challenges that we see and some of the things that we do. So that article should be coming out soon. And then the last is quarter page flyers. So we've put a picture of that drought monitor, shown where we're at, how things are looking, and our code compliance officers, as they drive around, just putting it on either doors or handing out to folks that have very green lawns that maybe shouldn't be super green this time of year. So that's our community outreach right now. And as we move forward, just wanted to say thank you, and the overall message is that this is a serious situation for the state, but the town has prepared for it. We have a good water supply, and we'll continue to monitor daily, weekly, and if we need to come back and provide additional updates or take additional measures, we will do so. Is there any questions?
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Do we have a formal drought response plan that has defined triggers for when things go from voluntary to mandatory, or is it more kind of a discussion?
You want to take that?
We do not. Yeah, we do not, and then others around us do, but we have not implemented that yet.
Okay. I bring that up mostly because of the concern that out of all of our housing units, more and more of them are being built in mostly metro districts at this point, right? And some of the older developments are, like HOAs. I can tell you that at least, the metro districts that I've been aware of aren't too keen to follow voluntary asks. Part of their fee schedule and how they get revenue is by finding people who don't have lawns that are a certain color or a certain length. And so, given how dry it is here, I just don't, I think people want to comply with the voluntary. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to, though, without risking getting fines and getting that levied against their house if they continue to not water. Has there been a thought about having a drought response plan, something that has defined triggers that allows you to respond faster or swiftly in case one of the situations changes?
Yeah, well, we have thought about that, and kind of the way our game plan here is we're managing it carefully as we go, but like you said, the game plan would be if we got to a point where we saw out into the future, it's bad and it's getting worse, we're going to have a crisis, and we need to do something drastic, we would come to the board with a recommendation.
What's that timeline kind of look like? So if you notice that something's changing drastically, you need to bring it back to the board for a vote, and then immediate community outreach. Like, what's the lag on that time frame?
We could, with putting a plan together, getting it approved by the board, we could execute that very quickly. The cloud on the horizon, that's going to be way out. All of our the water infrastructure in North Front Range is pretty robust. Frankly, I'll tell you right now, we will make it through this season. What will be critical is if we get through or well into summer and we still don't have a lot of rain, and then the outlook is even worse. Now things are looking critical for next year, and so then we need to put some measures in place in order to make sure that we can carry over this CBT water that Alex was talking about, and plan for what could possibly be a lower issue by Northern Water on CBT or Windy Gap due to the reservoirs at Carter Lake and Horsetooth and being too low and having a brutal 2027. So that's how that would look. But to answer your initial question, I think it's something we could execute pretty quick. Yeah.
Could you? I don't know what the name. I don't know what the name of it is, but you guys did an amazing job securing future resources of water for us. I think it's up north somewhere. It's maybe 4 or 5 years out. Can you just speak to that very quickly? Because I think that'll help.
Well, yes, that recent court case, and that's a alluvial supply on the South Platte River. And yeah, we're like, at least 4 years from having water to town for that. And then
that's a material quantity of water, isn't it?
It is. Okay. Yeah. And it's a lot, and it will be a robust water supply. The intent of that supply is to shore up resources for the whole town, but primarily it's to facilitate the project out east. In our water wastewater master plan, we connected that when the development occurs out east, the game plan is to connect that with a pipeline, along the highway corridor, in order for that to do just as you say, Trustee Wing, provide a redundant and diverse supply back into town.
Ken, could you also address Windy Gap and the potential for firming?
Yeah. So Alex mentioned Windy Gap and the unlikely event that it would pump and produce this year. That's a west slope supply that pumps up and then drains through the Adams Tunnel. Adams Tunnel? Yeah. To the east slope. Anyway, one of the things that we don't have the ability to is firm that Windy Gap water. So one of the things that you can do with that is, like this year, it's not pumping, but if you had a bucket to store it in and you could firm that water, then it's there for not a rainy day, a dry day. And we don't have that. We're working on that. And so that is one of the things that we're looking at, 50 or 500 to 1,500 acre feet of storage in a local reservoir in order to firm what we call the first use of Windy Gap. In addition to that, one of the aspects of Windy Gap is it's a reusable water right forever. We can treat it, distribute it, treat it again, pick it up, and so what we've got as part of this new water right that we have is a project where we have storage facilities at the South Platte River in order to capture this Windy Gap water and other reusable supplies that we have and pump them back to town, 6-7 miles, in order to be able to use those over and over and over again. That drastically increases the robustness of that Windy Gap supply. That we're still, a few years out also, getting that firmed up. But
So really quickly, my whole thought process on this, and you guys have done a wonderful job securing water from different locations, and I'm sure I'm going to learn more about that in Water 101.
Yep.
I'm future thinking here. What is it, 26 years ago? For those of you that were here in Colorado during that period of time, we had an awful drought. We had major water restrictions. So it's a process that we know comes around frequently. And we're in a period of time right now where you guys are planning, you're thinking about it, you've got active plans in mind. What are the contingency plans? What are we doing? What would the scheduling look like? I think it would be a good time to take this opportunity to create a drought response plan that is available and ready, that kind of, where, the triggers are defined, they can be acted upon without having to scramble and bring it back to the board. I hope we don't have to use something like that, but our drought conditions are cyclical and they do come around. So to say that we won't have another drought cycle, I don't think is going to be true. I think it would benefit, especially, with the continued growth of Berthoud, to think about putting together a drought response plan that is available and ready to just handle this the next time that it comes up.
This came in November. It's looking like next fall that things are still looking bad. And that's something, it seems like you guys would be coming with a plan, right?
Yeah, we
And then we could adopt that. You just want to start now, even though there's.
I think being proactive about it is important instead of waiting until we've already kind of hit a trigger to then think about adopting a plan. It's kind of like having a plan for a fire drill plan at your house, knowing that hopefully you never have to use it, but good to know what the steps are. So it's a proactive measure instead of a reactive measure.
I see the logic behind it.
If I could maybe piggyback on that, you said, Director Matthews, that it would be probably a pretty brief thing to just kind of pull like a preliminary kind of draft together.
Mm-hmm.
I would be very supportive of that at your discretion in the next few months.
Sure. We've drafted that out in the past 2 years ago. We were concerned about water supply, and kind of put some wheels into motion, and then ended up it started raining, and so okay, never mind. So we've got that served up, ready to go, so to speak. It could use some polishing, and a couple of things to think about. I would recommend against quantitative triggers. When Northern Water says 70% or lower, and this is occurring and that's occurring, then we will do that. I would recommend don't tie ourselves down and back ourselves into that corner.
Of course,
Put the mechanism
to help.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I don't know that much about water to.
Yeah. Yeah. That first off, that would be hard to predict and produce. Secondly, no matter how hard you work at it, how much time you put into it, it's going to be wrong. You're going to hit that trigger, and then I'll be coming to you saying, can we waive that? Or I'll be saying, could we hit that trigger earlier because we didn't quite estimate it right enough? So having a mechanism in place to say what is tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 water restrictions, what do they look like? And then I could come to you and say, we recommend that we go from tier 1 to tier 2.
Yeah.
That's exactly. And I think in all cases, the board is going to need to take action to do that.
Yeah.
The town's municipal code already has prohibitions on water waste. It has hours under which you can irrigate outside. It also gives the board the authority via resolution to implement other restrictions in the case of scarcity. And so, but in all cases, I think if we're to, and I agree with Ken in that having some specified triggers, some quantitative trigger is challenging because our water situation is constantly changing. Right?
Yeah.
The amount of water being used, the amount of water we own, we're constantly acquiring more.
Yeah.
We're developing resources we already own. So that's a moving target. But if you were to adopt some kind of restrictions on sprinkler usage, for instance, like, hey, you can only water Monday, Wednesday, Friday, those are common kinds of restrictions. In all cases, we think the board would likely need to take action on that. Our code already allows us to do that. So having some preset is probably a good idea. Then we could just come to you and say, hey, tier 1 is where we need to be. And you guys say, yes, we adopt that via resolution. But in all cases, I think the board would need to make that choice.
Quick question. What are the modeling projections showing if we don't get any water? When will we run out of our resources?
Good question. for this year, or looking into next year, or just in general?
I think in general, it looks like this year you guys have done a great job of preparing us for this. If the event continues and we receive the same amount of moisture, when do we run out?
So that's kind of why I mentioned the water year turnover starting in November is, like Ken said, our supplies and especially that decree water, that pushes us in a pretty solid place getting into and through October. And then once we get into November, then that outdoor irrigation demand it slows down quite a bit, and then it's just, we call it the base flow, and our CBT water, that 50%, that can certainly cover the demand through the winter. And Northern Water, I listened to their board meeting, and we went to their spring water symposium. There was a lot of discussion on what this quota should be in 2026. Referencing going back to 2002 and 2012 in really dry years, they allocated quotas in the 90 or 100%, because it's a need. This is a supplemental supply that's brought from the west slope to the east slope. So, and it was predominantly for agriculture when the project was created. So, their intent is to provide a supplemental supply. When it gets dry, you want to allocate more water. However, there was a lot of folks, especially the ag community, that said, let's do 90, 95, 100%. That'll help, farmers be able to push through this irrigation season. But, the opposite side, the industry and the water managers and municipalities really pushed back and said, hold on, if this goes next year, then ag and municipal and everyone's going to be in a really tight spot, and it's not something that we can make up. And it could take years to potentially make that up. And so, so this 80% quota, this I think their projection is looking into 27 that if there's an 80, there's enough water in storage from last year. This number that they allocated is kind of in arrears, where they have enough in storage from last year that they held back that serves this year. Any water on top of that pushes them into likely at least a 60 to 80 to 100% quota available going into 2027. So, that's something that we can look forward to starting November 1st is that additional water coming online. And then again, with the decree water, having that 3 CFS portion, that it's not a guarantee. Nothing's really a guarantee, but but we're confident that we can make the operational moves to get it to our plan.
And it's all about the irrigation. I mean, our peak usage in June and July and August will more than threefold increase. So you manage that rigorously and with an iron fist if needed, then you've got 20 million gallons that you treat water in the middle of January. That 20 million gallons is readily available in June if we're not watering grass. It's a pretty simple deal. Our portfolio is pretty complicated where it all is coming from, but to manage it, it's the irrigation. It always comes down to the irrigation.
And one other point, Governor Polis, he enacted the drought response, I'm not sure the exact name, but drought response plan for the state in middle of March, and that put together his drought task force from all different industries and all throughout the state. And this tier 2 or phase 2, I think is where he enacted in March. That just brings everyone together. I've early in the season I got a call from the river commissioner asking, like, you guys okay? I know that birth supply is good, but how have you projected? And and we said the same message that we have here. And if things get into a difficult position and there's no rain and it's 95 every day, I think the state can step in and help in ways, or curtail different industry in different manners. And I don't want to speak for the state or other water managers, but there is a state level oversight over this as well. That's not just local.
I have a question, Will. So with Granby and Grand Lake and Windy Gap, is there any correlation with what's released to the Colorado River and goes to some of the southern states versus what comes our way? Or is that out of scope?
Go ahead.
Yeah, for Windy Gap specifically, there is a decree just like our direct flow decree that they have to follow, and they have a low end constraint and a high end constraint. If Granby is at a point where it's full and it spills, then Windy Gap will spill, paper spill, and that's the first supply, and so there's likely not going to be any pumping. In this case, there's just not enough inflows from, I think it's the Fraser River, and there's a couple other basins in that area, and if there's just not enough flow, then that decree is not in priority, and so that water will go down the Colorado from the headwaters, and eventually make it, depending on other decrees, we'll make it to the
Is our
lower basin.
decree a priority over that or not?
No, the Windy Gap would not be. or you mean our Big Thompson decree? Yeah, so that's different, separate basins.
Okay.
You know, our Big Thompson is everything that flows on the Front Range, flows east. So that's separate. The Colorado River is everything that flows out to the Grand Canyon and Powell and Meade and
So
California.
Granby and Grand Lake have nothing to do with the Big Thompson?
Not technically. They flow into the Big Thompson system, but it is it's a separate decrees, separate administration on the west slope than how water's managed on the Front Range.
Okay. Rumor has it we're going to get an El Nino next year, so we're going to have a
Super.
ton of
Oh,
snow and
super
a
El
ton of
Nino.
water.
Yes. Yep, that's what we hope for.
Are there any questions
I
here?
do have one important one. If we enact water restrictions, how does that impact farmers?
I don't think it would have a big impact on local farmers. There are some entities that have excess water available that they can rent out. Berthoud, I've had some calls. Berthoud is not renting out any excess water, and we really don't, generally, other than some of our, excess irrigation shares that we can't use for municipal anyways.
We don't have a lot of dairies.
Yeah.
And that we sell municipal treated water to and stuff such as that either.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
Excellent presentation.
I did just have a comment.
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry. I was trying to wait for comments, but emergency minded, and I'm always thinking about worst case scenario and what if we don't get rain for 3 years. I would prefer that we enact restrictions much sooner than later. And I agree with some type of drought response plan where at least we know that we can enact things quickly. Should we need to, but I would prefer not to wait. And if I would like to look into how HOAs interact with our voluntary restrictions, because I think that was a great point by Trustee Grace. If people want to withhold, I think we should be able to allow them to do that. So how can we support that?
Yeah. So maybe when we haven't scheduled our Water 101 session, and I was talking to Administrator Kirk about that occurring maybe in the late May meeting, if that isn't filled up already, that agenda. Anyway, at that meeting, maybe we could also come with a draft plan, identifying these tiers or whatever we want to call them. Okay. All right. That sounds good.
Thank you.
We can do that.
Thank you very much. All right. Getting there. Let's move on to number 7, Stormwater Master Plan Presentation and Contract Award. We have our project engineer, Daniel Blendy here.
Hi. I'm the Public Works Project Engineer. I think I've met most everybody up here by now. So, all right. Nobody told me to get new slides, so I've got Berthoud Classic up there for you. I don't know if you've talked enough about water tonight, but we're just going to go over a little bit about our stormwater master plan proposals that we received. So on February 3rd, town staff publicly solicited proposals for a stormwater master plan. March 5th, 6 proposals were received. These were graded by various staff members based on the criteria outlined within the RFP, and Wilson and Company was identified as the leading respondent. To address some of the reasons we would want a stormwater master plan, really comes down to safety, health, and environment. In 2024, there were over 100 deaths and $180 billion in damage from flooding alone. Floods can increase disaster morbidity rates by up to 38%, and storm events are the leading cause of pollutants entering into our waterways. Some of the benefits include active participation by community members, balanced planning, increased accountability, predictability, and transparency, as well as reliable infrastructure. The town's most recent stormwater management plan was published in 2011. Not only has the town changed, but technology has also greatly improved, not just in modeling, but also in the stormwater infrastructure itself. The previous plan was unable to anticipate the growth that has occurred since. There were no provisions for capital improvements planning, nor were any design alternatives presented at that time. This project will provide multiple deliverables to the town, including insights into alternative funding opportunities, assessment of current infrastructure, strategic land acquisition plans, a modern hydraulic and hydrologic model, and capital improvements plans for 10 and 20-year growth estimates, just to name a few. These deliverables will help staff develop stormwater mitigation criteria for proposed development projects, evaluate plans for system-wide impacts, create reliable models to effectively manage proposed construction, and increase transparency with all stakeholders. The current timeline pictured here with the different milestones highlighted show that currently we are at the board approval stage. With this board's consent, work could begin quickly to finalize contracts and allow the consultants to begin their modeling tasks. Under the current schedule, all deliverables could be completed by February of 2027. So to make this possible, staff recommend approval of the proposal from Wilson and Company, and staff would then execute contracts with the consultant. And with that, I'm open for questions.
Thank you. So 3 tasks here. Okay, great. Any questions, trustees?
I've got a couple of questions.
Trustee Grace.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Good to update it from 2011. I know how those go, where you're like, well, we had it done, and now we're coming back to it. Are there any concerns about maybe additional cost or scope changes to bring us more into compliance with the permit requirements? I don't know much about the permits, but I know from 2011 to now, if there's been changes, like, are you guys concerned with?
Are you're referring to like the municipal separate storm sewer system permits, MS4? Yes. Yeah, so we have a floodplain administrator in town, our developments engineer, and we are constantly apprised of all of the updates on that program.
That is not,
so
not a concern?
So that's not a concern as far as compliance. Okay. The project where proposals were received for would help us actually think about other opportunities for regional detentions, other systems like that that could help us offset some of those burdens onto developments or individual homeowners and property owners.
Okay. And then for the projects that are going to be specified for like 10, 15, 20 years from now, I noticed in the request was also to include like opinions of probable cost. Mm-hmm. How are those like escalated over time, if you will? Because of course what we get today isn't going to be the same as what we get 10 or 15 years from now, so that we're notified, or the boards at that time is notified what the estimate was versus what it is now. What's that mechanism look like?
Yeah, so the direct mechanism would be determined by our communication with the consultant. In those events, we'd normally find that we get some ideas. For the 10-year, we have a pretty good idea of what we can expect. The 20 years a little further out. So really when they come up with ideas of how we can upgrade our current infrastructure or implement new projects, we get the engineer's estimate, which is typically based off of what they've seen from other projects that they've put out to bid. And then those we can add on. Currently inflation's about 4%, so let's add on an extra 20% or something like that. But those are typically just based on what we're experiencing now and then what we can see from escalating costs.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Good question.
Yeah, what's the cost of the master plan?
So in the budget, there was approximately $200,000, and the bid came back from Wilson at $199,400.
So my next question was, is it budgeted? And you just answered that. So yeah. Thank you.
Other questions?
I have a question. You know, I noticed in Wilson's RFP response that they talk about, they show the pricing, $199,000 over the 3 tasks, but then they mention task 4, which deals with creation of a top 10 prioritization list and assisting with the creation of the capital improvement plan. Is there an additional cost that would go along with that task 4 then, that would start after February of next year, like in the next year's budget?
No, so the reason they set it up that way is that's how they like to present their stormwater management proposals. And so when they asked if they had to stick to our task 1, task 2, task 3 readout in the proposal in the RFP, I said, you know, whatever you're most comfortable with, as long as it contains those deliverables.
Okay, so
So that's included in that
it
whole
is included,
price.
because when I was looking at their chart against what their verbiage was, it didn't match up, and I was a little confused by that.
Yeah. Yeah, but that will all be included.
And so we would see then that top 10 prioritization list with the deliverables in February, hopefully.
Yeah, that's part of that capital improvements program.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions?
Thank you.
Any comments? Maybe I should open this up to the public. Anyone in the audience wishes to speak to this? All right, bring it back to the board. How do we all feel? Feel pretty good about this?
Yeah.
All right, would anyone like to move on it? Item number 7 here.
I'll move to authorize the town administrator to execute an agreement with Wilson and Company for the creation of a stormwater master plan, subject to approval by the town attorney.
I can second it.
All right, Mayor Pro Tem has moved. Trustee Wing has seconded. Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Wing,
Yes.
Trustee Grace,
Yes.
Trustee Anderson,
Yes.
Trustee Murphy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Sorcelli Albrecht,
Yes.
Trustee Albrecht,
Yes.
Mayor Karsbeck.
Yes. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
Okay. In there, item number 8 is the Newell Farm Park project concept design update. And I think this is, this is Keith Knoll, Public Works Operations Manager.
So, Mayor Respect, this is where I'll have to recuse myself.
Thank you.
What's the process for that? Where do
We
I
can
go
come,
sit?
you can go anywhere outside. Do you want to say something? Yeah.
I'll come grab you usually. Yeah, it's chilling on the top floor or outside. Yeah.
Top floor. Got it. All right, thank you.
And Trustee Grace, you'll have to use the elevator to get to the second floor.
Oh, I have to go all the way to the second floor? Okay.
You mean she does? Is there like a special room or something?
There's no open lobby on the main floor.
Oh.
We could also sit you back here in the
Oh, we are
executive
putting
session
time
room.
out.
I know.
Sorry.
There's a room
This
back
is-
here.
Okay,
That's pretty.
what's
I think this
easier?
is only the second time that someone's had to recuse themselves in 8 years. So, but I think
you know
we
where
can
it
also
is?
sit you back here in the executive session room. Yeah, we'll take you back there.
You know where it is?
It was, yep, it was a closet.
I know.
There's a conference table in there.
decisions
And
in
there's
there.
a lot of chairs. It's a big room. We're not putting her in a closet.
Okay. Oh, Christian, sure.
I think you're okay to proceed,
Okay,
Mayor.
yeah,
When Christian gets back, you'll be
Please go ahead.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mayor Karsbeck and trustees. This presentation covers the conceptual design process currently underway for the Newell Farm property. I'll start by providing some background information with the park planning process. The park planning process typically follows a general path. It begins with town-owned properties that are identified for future park or open space use. PORT, which is listed there, stands for Parks, Open Space, Recreation, and Trails. The PORT Advisory Committee reviews projects as needed throughout the process, and they provide recommendations along the way, and you will hear some of their feedback tonight. During the conceptual design phase, we define the park's overall vision, goals, and layout, exploring ideas without finalizing detailed design, costs, or construction methods. Once a conceptual design is complete, the board may choose to advance the project into a construction document phase where feasibility and technical details are refined. The presentation you will see tonight was prepared by our contracted design team, Wink Associates. The Newell Farm property is Newell Farm is a property the town finalized purchase of in 2023 and is approximately 13 acres. It is located just east of the Green Lawn Cemetery. The property consists of 3 parcels held under a restrictive covenant agreement. Parcel 1 on the west there, and there's does the mouse? It does. This boundary is pretty close to where the west parcel, the first parcel. This is the homestead. Sarah Lincoln and Butch Haas retain a life estate and currently live there and may reside there for the remainder of their lives. This parcel remains under their right to use and live in, and includes the historic farmhouse, water cistern, and the granary. These features, along with mature trees, must be taken care of and preserved in perpetuity. Parcels 2 and 3 to the east combined make up the eastern agricultural portion and are leased for farmland by the town of Berthoud. The restrictive covenant agreement allows recreational uses on the parcels defined as activities undertaken for enjoyment, and basically just not work. For over 2 decades, Butch and Sarah hosted the annual Newell Farm concert at a 500 capacity amphitheater on site. This history helped inspire the current conceptual design. Top priorities for the site include creating a family-friendly atmosphere, maintaining a rural character, providing ample shade, and ensuring high-quality sound. The Board of Trustees last saw this project in January. In January, the board provided direction to begin design with a passive park concept that includes an amphitheater with capacity for up to 1,500 people. Additional feedback includes amenities, restrooms, and maintaining a rural aesthetic. This slide highlights just some examples of typical amenities found in passing parks. Some of these amenities may be used in this concept. These next 2 slides show examples of agrarian-themed amenities and natural play structures. As you look through a concept design, that we kind of call these precedent images sometimes, and you see maybe they're describing a garden or a silo. If you go back at these images, this is kind of what's in the design team's minds as they're maybe describing those. So if you see like a garden and you go back to these images and you see a garden, that's kind of an idea of what you're looking at. So where are we in the design process? What I'm presenting today is approximately a 50% concept. A lot of times with the concept designs, you see like a 10%, then you'll see a 50%, and then you're kind of at 99 the next time you see it. That's how kind of quickly they move with the drafts. So tonight's a 50% concept. I plan to return in June to show the final design to the board for comments, and that will finalize the design with your comments that night. In March, the Port Committee reviewed the 3 initial 10% concepts, and that's 1, 2, and 3 shown here. Their feedback combined, basically they preferred an element from each of them. And so their feedback combined created the 4th concept shown here. This 4th concept was then reviewed by the Port Committee again in April. This is feedback from the Port Committee at the April meeting. Some of it included ensuring the playground remains natural and passive, not a destination feature, providing adequate shade and restroom access, evaluating the safety and placement of the observation silo, amongst other things. It's important to note that this is the conceptual design, so some of these comments that we get, you really don't dive into until you get to the next phase, like the construction phase of it. So there's a port comment here for recommending a sun shade diagram to confirm where the shade would be during normal show times. We wouldn't dive into that until a future phase, but we're just tracking those comments now. There was also public comment from Sarah Lincoln that we shared with the design team. The design team ended up, we expected to have this for you at the early April meeting. So we didn't expect any changes, but we just shared all the feedback with the design team. They ended up making an updated design with some of the feedback. And that's what we'll share with you here tonight. For clarity, what does staff do during this process? We're not having drawing meetings with the design team. They're taking all the feedback that they've received and they create the design. So the same presentations that we're sharing with you tonight, we've shared with the Port. Basically, the design team will share the presentation with us. We'll just make sure there's nothing just like really inaccurate that we shouldn't be showing. And basically for this design, where it's at right now, The only comment I can think of that staff maybe played a role in was the curved tree alley that goes around the amphitheater. It was shown as a straight line. We actually just shared that with the port committee and said, hey, we kind of thought it should be curved. What do you think? They also agreed with it, and that's why it's shown curved. So we don't do a lot of changes as staff with the drawings. We wait for the feedback from you all in the port committee. So now to talk through this complex drawing. So the proposed plan includes a west entrance road, and that would be located over here. And I'm gonna pick through a handful of images, and I'll say a little about each, and I think by the end we'll have a combined look at it. So the west entrance road would only be opened for events and for parking usage. There's mode parking shown throughout, and you can see a majority of the site, I believe it's 4 or 5 acres, would be considered to be parking for the site. We do show some ADA parking over here. It is a reminder that there's 2 stages that would be conceptually on site. There's the small stage that is currently there, and then there's the larger stage. So we do show ADA parking. Maybe if it's a smaller show, small stage, there'd be ADA parking just set up for that. The amphitheater has a capacity of up to 1,500 people. The eastern entrance, located on this side of the property, this would be open at all times because we're trying to create a property that people want to go to any day, not just for an event, but also for park usage as well. So the east side would be open at all times. The eastern portion includes additional parking and a future site for Performing Arts Center being conceptually shown there. On the south, there is a small soft surface parking area that would connect to the future development if that takes place there. With 2 performing stages on site, the design combines back of house functions together, and when we say back of house, we're talking in this area. So that includes the green room and loading areas. There's a child's play area between the 2 stages, along with restroom and concessions buildings to the northeast. Food trucks and portable restrooms have possible locations shown. If constructed prior to neighboring development being built, portable restrooms would have to be utilized for that. This slide shows initial concepts for fencing and gated entrances during events. So this is kind of first take of it. You had a ticket gate on the west side, and you'd have a ticket gate on the east side, easily accessed, no matter where you enter the property at. Based on some port committee feedback, additional labeling was added to clarify site access, including some emergency access routes, and that was the topic of conversation at the last port meeting. This slide represents some preliminary parking totals. As we've heard in comment, it's possible that we can pack maybe even more people into the space. This is showing like a standard parking space size. I think when we've all been to events, we know we can pack people in even tighter in there possibly, so there might be even more parking available. But 585 total spaces are shown right now. Okay, so to summarize, maybe some site operations, and this is just conceptual programming at the moment that we're talking about. On non-event days, so these are just normal park usage days, only the east and south entrances would be open for regular park use. Based on our current discussions with CDOT, this level is not expected to trigger additional Highway 56 improvements requirements. And that's based on an assumption. We are still going to have to create a traffic impact study to confirm that. So it might be that just regular park usage triggers additional improvements on Highway 56. And that is because we are changing the use of those current driveways from residential farm use to now, more park use, more people coming in and out. So that's how it would work on non-event days. During events, both west and east entrances would be used for parking. The south entrance would be closed to discourage neighborhood traffic and instead serve staff, maybe golf carts, maybe bicycle access as well. Just trying to limit future neighborhood concerns. So to wrap up, I'll share some extra feedback that we have for the design, so it's all out there. Feedback from the neighboring developer, because we do talk with our neighbor and neighboring properties about communicating with them. So their concerns, of course, are neighborhood traffic, use of the southern access through the site, parking overflow into the neighborhood, noise, waste management, light pollution, and proper landscape buffering between the residential neighborhoods. CDOT's feedback has asked for information on event frequency and traffic impacts. And then a few extra things from staff working through this. We do want to ensure there's proper landscape buffering between this site and neighboring residential sites. There is a lot of soft surface roadage shown here, so we are kind of concerned about dust control being next to a neighborhood with those. Our community development is also reviewing the plans with us, of course, and they are coordinating this with the Mountain Overlay plan and confirming the site use approval process that might be needed for constructing an amphitheater in the town. So that concludes the presentation. We do want to make sure we hear board feedback on the overall vision, the view corridors and the tree plantings on the site, because we did try to maintain some of those when with the farmstead development. So we want to make sure we're still all on the same page with that. And then also the event planning assumptions. Currently, CDOT has let us know 15 is probably the cap for events out there until you'd have to make major improvements on Highway 56. Yeah, they kind of said 10 to 15. So that's outside of normal park usage. So reservations at a park could count as an event. So if there's a birthday party, kids out there, that could count as an event. Weddings count as events if there's reservations and things going on like that. So we have to be real honest with them about how we're planning to use the property, but they did specifically mention reservations might fall under an event as well. So
Would you state that number again?
15.
15 events for the year, and if we go over that, they're thinking maybe we need to do some highway enhancements. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. At the minimum, turn lanes in and out. And with that, yeah, I'll pass it to the board.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Questions after that? Trustee Murphy?
Yeah, could you go over kind of the southwest orientation of the amphitheater and why that direction was chosen, I guess?
I think it was to catch the view corridor, try to catch the mountain view corridor in the background. We've talked about the amphitheater. It's not shown in any way yet, talking about having maybe a skeleton of a barn structure that maybe that amphitheater's in. But yeah, trying to catch the view corridor to that way.
Okay.
Yes.
I love the concept. It'd be great to bring those amenities, to the town, as long as it doesn't impact, traffic and, other immediate residences too much. But I'm curious, not knowing anything about the project, first time at the meeting, would these be public concerts or private concerts, or who would be bringing these to the venue, and who would be selling tickets, who would be profiting from those ticket sales?
Mm-hmm. Nothing's set in stone. Ideally, this is a town amenity, and the town would be working through that. Yeah, setting up that programming process. So we have nothing set up with staff to do that now, but it'd probably require additional folks to do that.
With the potential then to generate income for the town as well?
Yes. Yep. So the town would put on the concerts and collect the revenue. And we're still working through how that works. We've talked with other communities like Fort Collins, who have the gardens on Spring Creek. They have the garden. They kind of operate it, but then they also have a nonprofit side that operates part of it as well, and gets involved. And we'd still have to figure out the details on how they share that responsibility.
So this wouldn't just be a town of Berthoud. It would be, you said, other communities would be involved?
No, we're just we're speaking with other communities to see how they handle it.
Or how they handle it?
Yep.
Okay. Just to see how it benefits and any problems they might encounter with
Mhm.
a similar venue?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I have a couple. I love the plan. Great job. Good layout. I think it's really exciting. What is the capacity, total maximum capacity for
So-
seats?
1,500 is what is kind of what we're trying to show right now.
Okay.
Right, and they still probably have to refine that a little more.
So like three
Yeah.
people per car kind of thing, if you will. I mean, kind of as an average to hit that number.
Mhm.
Right, something like that. And then, are any of these acts, are they planned where they would have semis? I mean, would it be that
Mhm.
big of a group? So
possible.
would this driveway, I know a lot about grocery store back doors and receiving docks. Would this accommodate a semi to back in there to the backstage?
Right, and we do have we've had those conversations about that being more of a cul-de-sac, more rounded, adding more space down there.
Okay.
So we are working through that. Right now, we know at least fire, emergency services would have to get back there as well. So that right now, we are looking for that. Yeah.
And the whatever you call the roads are not paved. They handle the weight of a loaded semi.
That's what we'd have to. We'd have to get that
Okay.
set up. Yeah.
And then the gates, are they open year round to the public when there aren't events going on? Is that the intent?
The east side would be, yes.
Let me rephrase that differently. Could people go into the area where the stage is and the seating is? Could the public just go in there? That's my question.
That'd be the idea, yeah.
Okay.
Because you'd have the natural playground and maybe some ornamental plantings, other reasons to be there.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And then my last question is, and maybe staff can help out with this, but when is our no-go on this? When do we make that decision? What's the timing of that?
That's a good question. So when Keith brings you back, if that's in June, that'll be the concept design.
Okay.
We don't have current plans to construct this, and so those construction drawings will have to be developed. That process can take 6 months or more.
Okay.
But most likely, you'd be making a decision sometime around the budget. If it was
When
something
is
you
that
wanted to
ballpark?
accelerate,
Is that October?
November.
Okay. So
We-
what I just
we
heard
would,
you.
in theory, have enough information at that point to give
Okay.
you some
Will there
cost
be
data.
will there be a phasing process to this? What I mean by that is, we're going to have construction plans in detail, so we'd have to approve the cost of that. So is there going to be some phasing of different steps we take, or costs?
Are you talking about phasing of construction?
Yeah. So I'm just making this up, but it's $45,000 to have construction
Um,
plans done. And my question is, are there phases to this process?
I would suggest, and I don't know that we've really discussed this in detail, but this is the kind of park you don't design in pieces, right? There's really one primary amenity, and that's the amphitheater, the new
Yep.
amphitheater itself, right? And so you need all the support amenities, you need the
Right.
roads and the parking. So from a construction standpoint, I wouldn't see this being
Well,
phased.
I'm not being clear. I'm sorry,
Sorry.
Chris. Not literally the physical construction, but I don't think we've paid, right, to have somebody plan out everything that's
Oh.
happening here. That's my question.
Correct.
Is when does that happen? What's the timeline here?
So
Am I being clear?
in June, we should have a clear concept program.
Okay.
Right? That's this concept plan
Uh-huh.
that gives us enough specificity to take and turn into construction drawings. We will need to contract for those construction.
And we would have to approve the cost of that, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And then at some point, so we kind of commit, put one foot in the water, and then the next deadline, if you would, the critical thing would be, okay, now we're going to approve the total funding of this. We're going to approve the whole thing. That would sort of be a next step, or
Yeah, what would be typical is, let's say we started construction drawings maybe in June, July. If we had enough cost data to provide to you, and I think it's probably reasonable to think that we could get pretty far along the construction drawings, have an opinion of probable cost. We can include money in the budget for that, assuming that's something that
for the cost of the construction plans.
Correct.
Got
No,
it.
For the cost of the construction itself.
Okay.
That's how you allocate money.
Got it.
And then once the plans are done, or if you want to accelerate, there's opportunities to do that. We've talked about that with other
Okay.
projects. But we would bid out the project, and then at that point, you'd make an ultimate determination. But effectively,
Go or no go timing, 2028, 2027, whatever, right? That would all be decided at that point.
that
And-
that could be decided at any point. I think the most reasonable time to do that is once we're far enough along in the construction documentation to have a decent idea of cost.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Sorry for the confusing
No, that's
questions.
okay. Yeah, good questions. Yeah, good questions.
If I could piggyback on that, just a clarification, Administrator Kurt.
Yeah.
I believe we have $400,000 set aside for Newell this year in the budget.
We did set aside, I don't remember off the top of my head, but that number sounds right. We set aside a pretty significant amount of money to be able to do the construction drawings. I believe our current contract with Wank is only for the concept design, and so we will need to initiate another contract, most likely with Wank, because there's good sense in having the same firm that did all the concept work do the construction drawings. And they're very talented, done a lot of work for the town. But we'll need a separate contract for the construction drawings. But there is money set aside with the intention of doing that.
Gotcha.
And so I'm clear, many of Ms. Lincoln pushing Sarah's points, they went proactively kind of incorporated some of these thoughts. Was that part of the you were saying in the beginning?
They incorporated some of Sarah's feedback from the port meeting. She came and publicly spoke. This new set, we have sent it to Wink, but we haven't done anything extra with them. And I've talked to Sarah about them. A lot of the comments are good. There's a lot of stuff we're not there yet. It's kind of a construction kind of phase, construction drawing phase when we get to those items. For Wink, what we're going to see in June is going to look pretty similar to this. They'll be a little more refined. They somehow, I don't know, they add more colors or something. It always looks a little different, but a lot of what's shown will be there, unless there's some major comments and changes you'd like to see tonight.
Do you see the 15 events being an issue? Because I would see, high school bands or little groups or whatever. I mean, this would just be an incredible venue. I mean, I could see this thing filling up every weekend with, even a banjo group or whatever. I mean, do you? 15 sounds so conservative for the number of events, or am I just in left field here?
I believe, Gardens on Spring Creek, I know, what do they do? 8 a summer, 8 a year. I'm not sure. I have to look at their schedule. I'm kind of really leaving that up to you all to let us know on. And
again,
yeah.
that 15 trigger, Keith, correct me if I'm wrong here, but that 15 event triggers transportation improvements beyond what exists currently. So those increase the cost of the project, but may be warranted if we want to do more than 15 events a year. So, some of that is, one of the things that will need to be done as part of this is some kind of pro forma work to say how much is this going to cost us to operate, what's kind of the likely revenue that we can generate. And so once we get a really refined concept, we kind of know, we know the terms of the game, right? Then we can go and put those financial projections together. And then that'll also give us an idea of, look, if this thing can operate really successfully from a financial standpoint, it might be justified to spend, maybe another $1 million or $2 million, whatever costs to expand the roadway, make transportation improvements, who knows?
I think people are starving for stuff like this. I think this could really get momentum going, and you create a whole summer schedule for it, and everybody goes, oh yeah, Saturday night, man, we're all going to X. What a blast it is, and it just really, I just think there's a ton of potential for it.
Questions?
I have a few questions and comments. First, just piggybacking on kind of the phase or the stepping of the process here. Are we saying then that most likely, I know it's hard to predict some of these things, but that most likely any major budget implications would come into the 2027 budget? Is that
would be
from
the
a timing
earliest.
standpoint?
Yep, that would be the earliest.
Okay. And then I was wondering how that would fit in, and thank you for the comment about the $400,000. I was wondering how we would, or where we would pay the construction costs from, so that was helpful for me. I do think it's a wonderful project. I think it's very interesting. I love the idea that part of the thought might be a performing arts center as well, so that we address that segment of our arts community. I also wonder about, having a little trepidation when it comes to how this impacts the new neighborhood that's supposed to be adjacent to it, from a standpoint of the buffering for noise, the lighting, how the lighting might affect that neighborhood during events, and then the traffic that might flow through their neighborhood. And I'm sure those are things we can figure out and remedy, but just things I want to hope that we keep in mind as this goes forward. And I would just, and maybe to relay a little experience in the town that I came from to Colorado over 10 years ago, called Fishers, Indiana. They also had a very big amphitheater. And the Chicago Symphony played there during the summer. A lot of music events there. It was off a main road. But I will tell you, traffic was definitely a concern after every event. We sometimes would spend just in the lot because you couldn't get out in the lot, because many different lots. Sometimes we spent 2 hours in the lot just to be able to get to the main road to get out of the area. So that would be definitely a concern I have. So at what stage would we see a traffic study?
We would have to complete one after this concept is complete. So we would, I think there's a town-wide traffic impact. Well, I'm speaking for the planning department. There's a town-wide traffic thing being done. And that would partly help us, give us a starting point to plug this property into.
And we would, part of the construction drawing process, there's a civil engineering team that'll handle all the utility work and the transportation infrastructure, all that design work, and they will do a traffic analysis as part of that construction drawing set. We would expect this to go through a site planning process in our planning department. That would be, we don't charge ourselves for those because it obviously doesn't make any sense. But we would expect our planning team to review this as like a site plan application. That our building inspection team will do all the building plan review and all those things, and we require the same kinds of studies of ourselves that we do from everybody else typically. So
Fisher is kind of a suburb of Indianapolis. Did you get a draw from Indianapolis?
Yeah, absolutely did.
Yeah.
It was, and although it's a good 20 miles north,
right.
And particularly when the symphony played during the summer.
That's kind of my point. You get a reputation. This could really. That was a high rent town you lived in too.
Yeah, well, yeah. But it did draw a lot of people, and the concerts, they were wonderful, I'll tell you. And it was that particular area already, because it's probably one of the premier living history museums in the country, already had a lot of traffic. But when we had a concert there, and the band shell was pretty well populated during that time period. But I do think the concept's exciting. Like I said, I'm a little worried about the traffic, but it sounds like once we have the traffic study, we'll have a better idea of what might have to happen with road improvements, what we need to do to be able to accommodate the concerts, so that you don't sit in the parking lot for 2 hours like we did many times. Thank you.
I'm going to open this up because at the beginning of the meeting I did say I would open everything up. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to this? Okay. Oh, sorry. Just please come to the front. Thank you. Please state your name and address. Appreciate it.
Yep, my name is C.W. Walker. I'm at 1488 Sabin Court. And I think this is an awesome idea. And it was mentioned briefly, the golf cart options too. So in Berthoud, we do have golf carts. We're a golf cart community, right? But there are limitations to where you can drive carts. And 56 is one of the places we cannot drive carts. And so with this, we can cross over 56 with carts. I would be curious to see if there is a way for folks that are not in the neighborhoods right next to this, if we with carts are able to cross over 56 and make it to these kind of events. Something to think about too. So curious to hear about that in the future in June. But that's one thing I thought about when we were looking at these plans. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? All right.
I wasn't planning on talking, but I'm going to.
Christine Torres, 739 William Way. I love this idea. I told Sarah that a long time ago. They helped us with the Berthoud Historical Society doing our concerts. And I see a huge ability for the Historical Society to do that because we have a once a year fundraiser, and right now we're using Grace Place this year, and I would love to be able to utilize that. But to your point of 15, does it seems conservative? If someone rents for a birthday party and that counts as an event, I mean, it's gonna come on. Let's be real. It's gonna be over 15. I think you use it, you pay kind of like C470. So figure out like, okay, this is how much it costs. The gate fee, a percentage of that is going to be going towards fixing that road, and let's use that for tourism and then drive people downtown to our small businesses. I mean, this is a win in every way, and it would behoove our wonderful Newell Farm. So I'm for this, but I think we need to be proactive, think 5-10 years down the road, and already assume it's going to be 15, to your point, and then figure out ticket sales, how to pay for it. That's just my 2 cents. And I'd love to use it for the Historical Society.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else? Otherwise, all right, I'll bring it back to the board here. Final deliberations. Well, I guess we're not voting tonight, but
I do.
yeah. So we do that.
Oh, sorry. I'm just so thankful for the port and the designers bringing this back, because I feel like when we were visualizing this, and I couldn't really picture how it would be integrated with the farm, the history, make it feel natural and organic, and they nailed it. Like, this is a million times better than I even realized it could be, and how much we can fit on that space is amazing. I want to comment that I appreciate that the parking is around the perimeter as a buffer, because I have also been wondering about the neighbors and the impacts to those residents that are going to be on all sides of that. So I appreciate any other buffering that we can talk about, anything that's kind of abutting those specific neighborhoods. I mean, even not the new neighborhood, but existing homeowners, are we reaching out to them individually and asking for them to bring comment to these port meetings?
We haven't reached out to any homeowners north of the site. That'd be the only ones kind of near the site. Around the rest of the site is just
there
ag.
a few on the east side as well? There's some kind of large
Across
lots.
another lot, there is some, yeah.
I would feel better if we reached out to them to have them give commentary to their concerns, because I think that really impacts their value of their property. But I think it looks absolutely amazing. I had actually written down that we need to discuss different ways to different transportation to get here, like pedestrian bikes, but the golf carts is my favorite comment, because I feel like that is something we are so underutilizing in Berthoud right now, and I think Mayor Karspeck has brought it up, that if we could make more of our roads golf cart accessible, or make specific pathways just for golf carts to get to some of these amenities, I think it would improve safety on our major roadways, and it would also help people get to attend these events without huge traffic congestion. And then as far as the view corridors, I noticed that there's trees on that southern west side of the stage, and so I just wonder about maybe those shouldn't be there if they're gonna, once they're mature, block the views of the mountains. Once you're watching an event there, that's just a small comment. The other thing that occurred to me, and I agree that more than 15, let's just plan for this being packed. The other thing that could be really great here is like a movie viewing opportunity, like movies in the park, or like a drive-in type of opportunity where you're sitting, and so the stage could accommodate a screen of some kind. I feel like that's low-hanging fruit. But otherwise, absolutely beautiful, so exciting. I'm so grateful that this is even on the docket, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
As the comments were being made about the neighbors, I couldn't help but reflect on the 4th of July or the 3rd of July and the fireworks we do, and that there's multiple residences like right adjacent to that, so we get away with it there. I don't know if we've ever asked those people, can we do fireworks in the park? So I don't know, but sometimes there's like an eminent domain too, right? It's for the good of the town, and it's like Kaminsky Park. These guys would get free concerts sitting in their front yard.
Well, and to add to that, one thing I forgot to say too is I appreciate that this is going to be open to the public. That if we're investing,
Ditto.
a significant amount of tax dollars, that this is, continuously open is really important. So, I appreciate that.
I was going to wait to bring this up at a later time, but and I'm not going to get into any details. But we do need to holistically look at our capital spending, look at our finances, look at our debt, look at how we're paying for things. And that's got to become at some point part of this conversation, and the timing and the other things that people want. What's the affordability of doing everything? Because this is fantastic, but how and where does it fit in? And we just got to make sure that we connect all the dots on that.
Thanks, Brett. That's my concern too, to make sure that that we have a plan for all of these things that we want to do. That from a financial standpoint, that will be fruitful, and that allows us to continue to grow and that kind of thing in the right way with the parks and the other projects. So I have that concern too about kind of looking at it holistically.
That's great. Trustee Murphy.
Yeah, no, I want to say thank you, Sarah and Butch. Your comments are really excellent, and this is not my field of expertise, even though I've dived into a number of, theater projects personally and professionally. The things I did want to bring up that I thought were really thoughtful were especially the loading spaces and the turnaround behind the stage and the trees located there. It seems that merits some discussion. Highlighting gates and entry controls, looking at site lighting, and then just the trash and restroom situation, I think deserve a little bit more highlighting in the concept. But the one thing I really did want to bring up is I know it was brought up that solar studies hadn't been tackled or would be tackled at a later date. I honestly would really appreciate to see just some massing models showing kind of the shading and the amphitheater structure, which I think could be done very quickly and affordably. I think it's really important to get that orientation right, along with hitting the bearings on some of the major peaks, like the Indian Peak, Long's Peak, Pikes Peak, and the kind of orientation that amphitheater has towards those major sites on the Front Range. So I think it really merits base level kind of massing model for shading and solar study.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and we'd have to ask for prices on that, and then from someone we can share those with the board.
I think just real simplistic.
And you're coming from like a view aspect, not from the artist getting blinded by light by a sunset.
Well, looking at the southwest orientation, I have concerns about kind of having these shows at sunset, and is the crowd kind of facing the sun, how bright it is.
Good point.
Then you've got the mass of the stage, and is that blocking a significant portion of the audience? So I think you could do simple rendering from one end to the other in the center, kind of looking at those views. I think that would be incredibly helpful, especially with like an app.
Hopefully the construction company has got experience in that. I mean, because you're bringing up really good points as you're sitting there talking, going, yeah. So
well, I think with it being the central feature of this, I think at this early stage in the concepts, I think it's really merited to have that kind of orientation thought out and settled. But I'm very happy with the design of the amphitheater right now. I guess I don't have any additional comments. I really appreciated Sarah and Butch's insight on that. So I think continued engagement with them would be helpful. I really appreciated the court's comments. Yeah, looks great.
Here I have one more comment, one follow. And again, as you were talking, it came up, and I don't want to get into all the logistics of every single event that's ever going to be there, but 1,500 people, do the restrooms accommodate that, or would we have like porta potties for that? And again, if that's a question to be answered down the road, that's fine.
Yeah. Right now, it's just portalets, portable restrooms. We wouldn't do that, for most of our town events, we close restrooms down. We haven't built restrooms built for events yet, I'd say. So that would be a new undertaking with this property if the choice was to do, full functioning restrooms for all the users to use. It'd be something.
That'd be the size of a data center.
Okay,
Undertaking.
so
But-
the intent was, again, whether you talk through it or not, was there would be porta potties, and maybe the functioning water ones would also be open. Whatever. I'm good.
Right.
You answered my question.
Mm-hmm. And that, and again, the development would be the ones bringing those utilities to the site. So, and that's the farmstead development. So them building, potentially building would bring those utilities to the site for it right now. So just so everyone's clear on that. So, okay.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so well, it sounds like there's a small bathroom, but for a major event, we would have porta potties. Or you're saying no town bathroom at all. Right now, we're just planning all portalets.
We're kind of planning both, but and conceptually, what's the scenario in a year over there? So, yeah.
Thanks.
Can I ask a newbie question? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh no, I was giving you
Just kind of a newbie question. In this whole idea, have we ever talked about potential, like corporate sponsorships of stages and that kind of thing to be able to help pay costs and?
We should.
Yeah, I think you've had some ideas when you're looking at other communities. I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely an option if that's a choice you all wanted to work through.
It's a good idea.
I know we
do
used
it at
to.
Rec Center, as well.
Those are all things that we would normally consider as part of a project like this.
Okay. I just didn't know if that was something that was
That's a good question.
doable, but I will tell you, in Fishers, Indiana, we also had another huge venue, which was the only one in that side of Indianapolis, which was a concert venue. Used to be called Deer Creek. And the reason I can't say the name correctly is because it would change every 2 years. We'd have a different corporate sponsor, and they'd rename it. So I don't know what the current name is. We just called it Deer Creek because that was the name when we first moved there. But they did really well with those corporate sponsorships coming out of Indianapolis. So.
Yep, we can look into that. Thank you.
Anything else, Trustees?
Oh, I wanted to bring up as well, we're well past the 9:30, but I would like to make a motion to continue the meeting till 10:30 or before.
So moved.
Is it okay?
So seconded.
Second, okay, we have a motion and
So
seconded.
good.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Sir?
I see a lot of trees, and it just crossed my mind that, I wasn't involved in the Arboretum discussions, but does it make sense to potentially combine that Arboretum project with this project? I don't know if it has any connection or any, if there's anything that would even remotely resemble the Arboretum project. But, again, not having been involved in that, I just thought, that might make sense and make other people happy, as well. But, yeah, I love the project, and, but again, I think the shading is going to be critical as well. And, traffic studies will tell how that's going to look.
Okay.
But thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I have no notes. I think this is fantastic. Staff, Sarah and Butch, it's always awesome to have you guys being the experts right there for us to contact. So I wouldn't know anyone better about big venues like this. So I'm just very, very excited, encouraging. So I think all these comments tonight by the trustees are great. Mr. Walker, I really appreciate you. Yes. I think we need a golf cart committee and a chair.
Exactly.
But sounds like we're all, yeah.
Yep. I think I got what I need on the vision, the view corridor, events, usage. I think I got everything.
Excellent.
Mainly, yeah.
Thank you.
So, and I'll stick up here. Oh.
Yes, sidewalk caution. Where is this? He's gone. All right, I know it's.
I'll go grab.
Thank you.
Well, that's right. Oh, forgot about Steve Green.
Not regular.
Great.
Agenda items. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move on now to our final agenda item tonight, sidewalk cost share program expansion. to kick this off.
All right. So I will share some updates along with a potential expansion if the board so chooses. The sidewalk cost share program that we have now, it's a board policy, so you would have to make that decision if you would like to add to it. So to start, in Bertha, the property owners are responsible for the maintenance and repair of sidewalks adjacent to their property. So they take care of their sidewalks for snow and ice removal. They also take care of them for any concrete issues and trip hazards and drainage issues. The town maintains sidewalks adjacent to town-owned properties, such as parks. We also repair sidewalks in conjunction with the annual road improvement projects. So this is required under the Americans with Disabilities Act. When we do a major renovation of a roadway, we also have to update the pedestrian sidewalks next to it. In addition, we are currently in year 4 of a board-approved sidewalk improvement plan. So a handful of years ago, the board enacted us to work on the sidewalks in the Old Town area. What's shown on the screen is a 2018 ADA transition plan. There was an assessment done of our sidewalks and ramps throughout town. And so what we're working on over these last 4 years is Area 6, which is some of the worst sidewalk infrastructure we've had in town. But concurrently, we were also always repairing sidewalks next to the road improvements. So there's a chunk. There's always a chunk that seems to be getting worked on. So does everyone understand that to start what the town actually does fix? Because I think that's important that we understand that.
Give us a quick update, high level.
On what we, so like.
Unless it's on the next slide.
I have our improvement plan that we're working on a future slide. So where are we at in Old Town working on sidewalks?
Can you just give a really high level, like I saw 6, but what about the rest of the town? Is, again, I know we've covered this before, but do people apply? The town pays half. Could you just give us really quick, really high level, just what's the program?
Yes. So in 2020, that is the next slide. There you go. So in 2020, the cost share program was created to assist single-family property owners with necessary repairs. In 2023, the program was updated to include flagstone. This came as a result as we were starting our first year of sidewalk improvements, and in this Old Town area, there was a lot of residents with flagstone. Now, we do not like to contract or hire people to fix flagstone as a town. There's ADA concerns. When you do that, there's also the longevity of releveling flagstone. It's not as sustainable as doing concrete repairs. But we also, the board wanted to incentivize flagstone owners to still keep their flagstone. So, for example, when the sidewalk improvements went down 7th Street, we asked property owners that had flagstone, would you like the town to replace this with concrete or would you like to keep the flagstone? And we shared the cost share program. And we've been doing it now on our 4th year. So the flagstone was added to incentivize all property owners to maintain and preserve existing flagstone sidewalks. So if you are a homeowner with concrete and you had needed a concrete repair done and it qualified, homeowners and nonprofits are allowed to do the concrete program. Businesses are not allowed to do concrete to concrete repairs. If you are homeowner, nonprofit, business owner with flagstone, you did qualify for the flagstone program if you were going to re-level your flagstone to incentivize people to residents to keep the flagstone. So over the handful of years to date, 13 property owners have chosen to retain and repair the flagstone, while 31 have replaced it with concrete, just so you know. In most cases, homeowners love the flagstone, but they don't like it as a pedestrian walkway. There's concerns of trip hazards. They've probably started with a house with flagstone in rough condition, and when the opportunity comes to level it out and have a sidewalk that's easier to maintain for ice and snow, they typically go that route. But a lot of them do keep the flagstone and do other improvements in their yard with it. What flagstone does not get used by the property owners, the town will pick up, and when other property owners want to fix their public sidewalk that's currently flagstone, we will deliver them whatever flagstone they need. So we have like a little surplus that.
So what is the program? Did you say it? Is it 50%? Is it a dollar
Yes.
amount?
It's 50% up to 3,000 per
Oh.
frontage.
Okay.
So some corner houses, they have multiple frontages.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mhm.
Great.
So as you can see through the program, how it's the increased usage, I would say, is a result, of course, of the for Flagstone is of our program going through those neighborhoods and us working with the property owners on that. It's also, I think, a result as when concerns are brought in to the if a resident has an accident on someone else's property, typically they call the town about it. They report to code enforcement. Our code enforcement will go out and talk with that property owner about their trip hazard, which typically it is, and they'll share the cost share information. They fill out the application. It goes to our public works staff. We go on site. We talk with the homeowner probably about the best, the sustainable repair method that would work best in that situation. Sometimes there's tree roots involved, so our town forester will get involved. So we help them make the wisest choice for that.
On that note, would you say the majority of these trees are residentially owned or town owned, like on boulevards like this?
They're typically in the tree lawns.
So
yeah, in the town right away. Trees.
So the town would own the trees?
No.
Okay, that's what I was asking. Thanks.
The town doesn't own the trees or the sidewalks.
Okay.
Our code is very clear, and this is true really everywhere in Colorado. But like the sidewalks are the responsibility of the adjacent property owner.
Got it. The reason I ask, because it looks like the roots cause a ton of the problems,
Yeah.
and if they're town trees, then there would be some liability there. So
Those are not
thank
our
you.
trees. They do exist within public right of way. We do require a permit in order for them to be cut down, maintained, replaced.
Okay.
Because that's within public right of way, but they are the responsibility of the adjacent property owner.
Thanks.
With the exception of the emerald ash borer treatment, which the board previously made a decision that we would treat ash trees in downtown with at the town's cost.
Great.
Okay. Does everyone feel like they have a good idea of what the cost share program and how it works? Okay.
Yeah.
So why are we bringing up an expansion? We had a downtown business that currently has flagstone. They wanted to replace and switch to concrete, which does not qualify because it's flagstone to concrete. If they were wanting to re-level their flagstone, that would qualify for the program, and the town would cover 50% of those costs. So we initially declined that request. The property owner continued talks with us. They of course are seeing our sidewalk improvements going on all around where they are, but there is no program for the businesses along 56. So safe walkways between downtown and parks were always part of the original 5-year plan. So could you walk from downtown to Wagner Farm Park and have a safe ADA compliant walkway in order to do so? So this section along Mountain Avenue is not addressed as part of any current improvements for roadways or sidewalks. But nearly all sidewalks surrounding the area have improved or are scheduled for improvements. So you can see these lines represent different years of the sidewalk improvement plan. We've completed blue, teal, white lines. Red is the current plan for this year, and then yellow will be finished up next year. Some business we have repaired some sidewalks for businesses along this route that have easy 4-foot sidewalks that are maybe detached, and those are easy sidewalks for the town to repair. But as you get to some of these sidewalks that businesses have are, tidied up to the business itself, to the building itself. They also have interesting, storm drainage and stuff through there. So they're not easy sidewalks for us to just. They're larger sidewalks. So we typically want some coordination with the businesses on that. So why a cost share for this area? So it is the property owners to maintain. Businesses don't qualify currently for any town cost share. So what's interesting about the sidewalks downtown is we have town infrastructure in them. We have irrigation systems, we have meters, we have irrigation valves, we have the street lights, we have electrical. All those utilities run under that red brick that's shown there. So we do have utilities intertwined into these sidewalks. And so they would be expected when they do fix their sidewalks to also add in that, continue to keep that red brick in there as well. Sidewalks downtown typically connect to buildings. So we would like to not hire contractors to work up against next to buildings, removing concrete. They have their storm drainage chases. Sometimes a concrete issue could also be a subgrade issue that's going into the building. That's more of a bigger thing as well. So that's why we're proposing maybe for you guys to look at if you wanted to expand the area into this downtown area where we have, some intertwined downtown infrastructure. We don't have this town infrastructure throughout other areas in town, so it's kind of unique in that way.
Those highlighted colors you showed on the previous slide, are all of those repairs 100% paid for by the town?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. And so to clarify what the proposed area would be, that we have highlighted from Massachusetts to Welch Avenue, from 1st to 8th Street, would be maybe the business expansion area that you guys can discuss.
But also the residential within that red line, correct?
Residential, they've always qualified.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Any thought of why not going out? I'm thinking Napa, Napa to 9th, or is there a reason or 7th to 8th?
I was keeping it here because, as our town infrastructure is kind of within the sidewalks within those areas.
So just to be clear, right now, any resident in the entire town qualifies for the program. Is that an accurate statement?
Yes.
Okay.
Single family homes.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And I can't. I'll clarify. It can't just be an aesthetic issue.
Right.
If it's a crack, but it's not a trip hazard crack, that
I think those.
doesn't always qualify.
I think those are defined, aren't they? Very specifically.
Mm-hmm.
The criteria for getting it.
Correct. Yeah.
Yes.
Trip hazards, quarter inch.
Right.
Couple bids, and then pay, and then you reimburse.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The homeowner, the property owner, they'll grab 3 bids. We will reimburse up to the lowest bid. So sometimes they want to go with the second bid, but they're good conversations with homeowners. We check that they're fair prices, and yeah, I think it's been working out for the homeowners we've worked with. It's been good communication, and they want to get their sidewalk fixed. So I think it's been a good process.
And the maximum, the $3,000, that's our share. So it could be a $6,000 job. We pay half. Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
Up to 3,000. Yep.
I think one of the reasons why we considered this priority area, this is what we generally consider to be downtown or old town. Once we start extending out farther west and we get into some of the newer areas, I think that's certainly a conversation we can have.
But I was actually just thinking of the historic. I get that point,
Yeah.
And I was actually going to the cottage realty in my head, not Napa. That's pretty, and that's just one home, though. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Just an additional point of clarity. I was looking at Mount Avenue corridor, and that's 1st to 8th.
Okay.
So keeping it aligned with that seems to make sense to me.
But if you look at the usage, it's not abusive. I mean, right? I mean, 1, 0. It's not like, oh my God, this thing is running rampant. It's crazy. I mean, it seems like it's self-contained, right? I mean, that's
correct.
That's what your presentation seems to be showing.
Correct.
It's not because if it did get massive, then I would say we would have to do a plan where I'm making this up, a 10-year plan. We do this part of the town this year, right? But it's not. It's not an abusive financial burden on the town. It's really self-limiting itself. It appears.
And some of that is because we do have an aggressive 5-year sidewalk replacement program. So when we choose to do the sidewalk replacement, the town covers 100% of it. This is typically for areas where we don't have those prioritized, or where they might not occur for several years, and the property owner wants to go ahead and get it done. And if they want to accelerate that, that's fine. We'll cost share with them.
$750 for the year, right? That's nothing practically.
Yeah. So far this year, it's been mild. Yeah. I mean, we have had some large years. I mean, you can see where we spent, plus,
And
10, 20, well, and $26,000. But these are not significant undertakings.
Right.
What we don't want to do, I'll be frank, I don't think we want to extend this out to where, the Berthoud Village Shopping Center, where we are located here. We don't want to be paying for the sidewalks in commercial centers, commercial developments. We wouldn't want to pay to repair the sidewalk at 7-Eleven, for instance. I think that was the position of the board at the time we created the program back in 2018. I think that generally still stands. But downtown, the downtown area specifically identified in the Mountain Avenue plan, extending out to Welch, Massachusetts, makes sense to us. Because it is unique. The sidewalks are much older. These are almost exclusively small businesses, local businesses. It's a different environment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's much more pedestrian oriented, even though we want the entire town to be pedestrian focused. We don't want to replace sidewalks at McDonald's.
I have a question about the budget. Am I correct that the line item that these funds come from was budgeted for $350,000, or are there other things that come out of that?
Yeah, we have a couple of different locations in our budget where we pay for sidewalks from.
Okay.
The sidewalk cost share is actually, I think it is a separate line item in the budget, is it not, Keith? Now I'm drawing a blank off the top of my head.
I forgot which one I put down because I know there's the two. So there, we utilize one specifically for the cost share. I mean, there's a lot of money in there, but we do pull from there for the depending on the road improvements and the other sidewalk improvements.
Okay.
To also cover that.
I saw $350,000 and then saw that we've only to date spent $53,000. I thought, okay, there's probably other things that might.
Correct. Not specifically for cost share. And to clarify some of the prices with some of those larger years, like 26,000, that's because they're doing flagstone. And those are full frontages that are being re-leveled compared to most of the time it's just a few stones that are getting re-leveled. So,
I'll just say, I remember when we put the limitation on commercial, I kind of, at the time it was to keep the history as much as you can, worried about a wave of everyone, these are from the 1920s, they were brought down by draft mule from what is now Carter Lake. So there's some history tie in there. I ended up getting my historic replaced with the concrete. It was a better program. I, in fact, didn't have the money up front to pay for the contractor to do the leveling, but in the long run, I'm really happy with the concrete. Like you guys said, you left the stones there. So my neighbors do some, and so I want to say, now looking at this, I do feel like it's kind of arbitrary holding businesses to a stricter standard that we do for residential. I think it'd be great to allow businesses the same kind of relief programs that I guess I received myself.
I have a suggestion along those lines. Is I feel like once the 4-year sidewalk plan is complete, year 5 should be this corridor, and we should handle it the same way we have with the other streets, which is to go through it and close the gaps and offer to cover those costs where there is inefficiencies, or to cost share flagstone replacement. That would be my recommendation, is that this is the next juncture, is that we cover the cost. This is not just benefiting businesses. This is the entire town of Berthoud benefits from accessibility downtown. And even the gaps along Welch Avenue that still need to be filled with sidewalks that are either there at all or ADA accessible are important. So I don't know if that needs to be a bigger conversation, but in my opinion, this would be the next stage of those sidewalk.
I think that probably does need to be a bigger conversation. It's probably one worth having, but I do think that is a bigger conversation.
The amount of properties in here, I can only think of a handful, right, that have right now pavers but want to. Well, I guess I'm okay. No.
I think it's like one.
I'm thinking of Mountain States too, because I thought they wanted. Okay.
There are some commercial properties on the south side of Mountain Avenue that have flagstone that's in disrepair.
Right. It's a tree,
yeah. There are a handful through this corridor that have flagstone. Yeah.
And this affects, if you have concrete right now, it's really bad too. Anyone opposed to opening this up?
No.
Okay. You don't need a motion, it's direction, correct?
We would like you to give us direction, and then
Let's move on.
and then we'll need to modify the sidewalk program specifically to do that.
I would make a motion to expand the sidewalk program as stated by staff.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by trustee Murphy, seconded by trustee Wing. That was to, can you say that again?
I would make a motion to expand the sidewalk program to commercial properties, according to what staff has stated here tonight.
That work?
I would like to modify it though,
Okay.
that it's not a cost share program. We will cover the cost unless it's Flagstone, which is the bigger conversation.
Would we extend that same to homeowners as well? Currently, we don't do that unless we have a specific project queued up. But homeowners don't currently have the option to call the town and ask for us to pay for 100% of their sidewalk replacement.
I think so when you guys came down 4th Street, and so this is just my experience, I had the choice of either having the town cover the concrete cost, and my Flagstone I could save and do whatever I wanted with, or cost share the Flagstone releveling. And I opted to do the concrete because I couldn't afford to relevel. So it's a great option. I want to offer that same thing to our downtown businesses, is that we come through and fix the issues unless they want to adjust their Flagstone at half of the cost.
I see what you're saying. I wonder, so this sounds like a bigger conversation. I wonder if we could just say, we'll cover the cost from either leveling your existing flagstone or replacing it with concrete? So we'll just focus on these.
I think if we wait for businesses to be able to cost share, they may never be able to fix their concrete. And this is like traversed by every person in our town. It's not just the business, that's impacted. It's everybody. And so that's where I think we need to talk about what the town can do. Once we've completed this project, do we have funds available to continue the project but focus on this particular corridor?
Do the businesses get the bids?
Yeah, we would expect that in the context of the cost share program.
I wonder somehow, do they have to have some skin in the game? It's just like a residence. If it's no skin in the game, then they'll pay $25,000 to have the concrete done. Where if they pay half, all of a sudden it just came down to $6,000. Somehow it can't just
for
be
clarity,
an open
though,
checkbook.
Is Trustees Sorcelli, are you suggesting that the town prepare a project to upgrade the sidewalks in this area independent of the cost share program? Because that's not part of the cost share program. The things that we when we go through and do road repairs, we upgrade the sidewalks and curb and gutter at the same time because we're already in there doing a wide variety of street repair work. And we will replace existing concrete that's damaged. We take little pieces out and we'll repair those sidewalks as part of that overall street improvement project. And then we also have the sidewalk plan where we prioritized based on the 2018 transition plan. We said we went through and did a evaluation of every sidewalk in town and said these are the worst areas, and we prioritized those first. That's that kind of area 6 that Keith was talking about. And then we set up a plan to upgrade those sidewalks at the town's cost. But when people come to us outside of the bounds of those projects, we typically say that's not a priority for the town at this point. We obviously can't repair every sidewalk in town in 1 year. So we have a plan. If that doesn't fit in our plan and your sidewalk needs to be repaired, we'll cost share it with you now. So with that as context, I think what you're describing, correct me if I'm wrong, I just want to make sure I'm hearing you. You're saying when we get done with our existing 5-year sidewalk plan, then this should be the next project where we go through and upgrade all the sidewalks at 100% of the town's cost, independent of the cost share program.
Yes.
Okay.
I am.
I just want to make sure that's what you're
perhaps
saying.
that would be a good talking point for the strategic planning session, in conjunction with the other, when we talked about the cost of doing business downtown and in town, that might be part of that conversation. But yes, I am suggesting that this would be the next stage of town work on sidewalks to overhaul the entire corridor.
And you're right. It's a reflection on the whole town. It's a first impression. So it's really important.
If I could, Mayor Pro Tem, I largely agree with you. I'd love to have that conversation on our strategic planning. I know we've got a lot of other gaps to cover and seeing that program continue. But I guess I think it makes sense to just execute on this tonight and stuff. But carrying that conversation further, I'd be happy to pursue that very soon.
I'm comfortable with that as long as that door is still open and we can have that conversation. That's great.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and so we had a motion, it's been seconded.
Yep.
Okay.
Vote.
Quick roll call vote on this.
Trustee Grace,
Yes.
Trustee Murphy,
Yes.
Trustee Wing,
Yes, sir.
Trustee Albrecht,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Sorcelli Albrecht,
Yes.
Trustee Anderson,
Yes.
Mayor Karsbeck.
Yes. Excellent, that's passed. Thank you very much.
All right.
And
Thank you,
for bringing
everyone.
that to us.
Mhm.
Good thing to consider. Well, that concludes our regular meeting tonight. We'll move on now to reports. And again, reports is just a time to either ask questions or just give kind of reports on what you happened in the community you saw, either with your committees or something related to the town. And we will, it always goes trustees and then the mayor pro tem and then the mayor and then over to staff. We'll start off with Trustee Olbrich.
Nothing for me.
All right, well, welcome.
Thank you.
Trustee Grace.
Also nothing for me at this time.
All right. Trustee Anderson.
Just a reminder about this Saturday is the Birth of Local plant sale and drugs. So just that we're all, and that's in Pioneer Park in the morning.
Habitat was busy. I drove by because you were, I didn't stop in, but isn't that was the double give day, right?
Yeah, that was it last Saturday. It was a little cold, although we didn't get to talk to a lot of people about Habitat, so that was helpful.
Trustee Murphy.
Yeah, we had really good turnout for Arbor Day this past weekend. I was able to chat with former Mayor Pro Tem Grace and Trustee Grace. I think I saw you there, Mayor Karsbeck. It was a phenomenal event, and it seems like we're getting more people every year, even though it was kind of chilly. But I want to thank everyone for turning up for that. And then I did want to point something out that came on my radar thanks to CML. I don't know if you guys received the email on Senate Bill 26-100, which is youth sports safety requirements. They sent out an email kind of notifying on new requirements that would be imposed on recreational sports in town. Having 3 kids in that age group and having my wife currently coaching for the rec center directly impacts us and a lot of people in the community. This bill, CML has taken an opposition position on it, which requires some additional training, CPR, first AED AED certifications for youth coaches, new rights to sue municipalities over failures to conduct proper background checks, and some other elements. And it's still in limbo. It's going through committee right now. But I felt called to personally speak in my own capacity on this matter. So I'll be testifying on that on Thursday.
Okay.
Can you give us the bill number one more time?
Yeah, it would be SB 26-100.
Do you mind just also just forwarding it out?
Yeah, I'll re-up it again. I got it, but maybe you guys aren't on CML's radar yet. But I'll definitely forward it around if anyone else wants to testify on it. I'm not calling for a board resolution or anything. I just thought I'd bring it up.
Which are crazy. CMLs are, legislative advocacy group, but they do call on municipalities, and when we put our voices together, I've seen it. Cities can stop big bills that we're expected to go through. So
We'll see how it goes in committee. I'll definitely bring it back up if there's worse language on. Yes, but
it's not like equipment or football rules. It's more along the line of training.
Coaching largely.
Okay.
Training and
Okay.
who actually operates in that capacity. And in my personal experience, it's been an incredible struggle to get people volunteering for coaching positions over at the rec center. I know our staff does a phenomenal job with it. It's just really hard to get parents involved with that. And requiring additional training and rules and regulation without any money coming from the state is kind of an issue to me. So, yeah, that's all I've got.
I just want to thank Trustee Murphy for his service as pro tem. want to really congratulate the new trustees. Buckle up, here we go. It's a lot of fun. You learn. You can tell how much learning takes place here. Just like with the water discussion, there's so much. And 2 years from now, you look back, you're going to be amazed at how much you've learned. And congratulations to our new pro tem. Looking forward to a great year. Thanks.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, thank you guys for the support and the opportunity to grow in my capacity. I certainly have a mama bear heart for this group, for our staff, for the community. So anything that I can do to volunteers tribute to help, be a bridge maker and builder is an honor. So thank you. Quick updates from Youth Advisory Commission. Last year they did the inaugural Youth Commission Summit, where they invited other youth advisory commissions in the region to Berthoud and did a leadership summit for the youth. And they also networked and talked about how best to facilitate that. This year they are passing the torch, and this is the plan, is that it will continue to pass through different communities, but Berthoud's youth will lead by helping them logistically and be the guiding just kind of light for the future youth summit. So that's going to take place in Greeley. And then they also came up with some high level objectives before they finished out the school year, and one of them was to volunteer at the senior center, or not senior center, at the, what's it called, Casey? The assisted living center. Thank you. Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, my brain. So that was a really sweet thing that they decided to do. And then a quick update on the branding committee. They have gone through several iterations of different concepts for logos for Berthoud, and talking about what are the key markers of the community, what is the messaging associated, talking about the garden spot where good things grow. And they've kind of refined it down, I think, to 2 concepts, and have one more meeting to finalize that and bring that final concept back to us soon. So that should be exciting. And then I think that's it.
Awesome. I second what Trustee Wing said. Thank you, Sean, very much for your service. Great to work with you. Welcome, Trustee Albrecht. Sorry, Albrecht. Look forward to working with you, and really all the trustees for stepping up. Arbor Day was just fantastic. It was awesome to have Ursa Major send their employees. Mountain States, a youth nonprofit, sent some of their folks. Great turnout. Tree committee did a great job. Planted 6 trees. I mean, usually they'll give away 1 raffle tree, but they also had multiple types of trees you could just pick out, people in the crowd. So I was really floored by everyone's effort on that. So thank you to staff and to tree committee for getting that done. Attended the Carrie Martin Leadership Day this morning. It was fantastic. Steve Boyd was there, Dr. Heller from the school district, the paper, but just learning about all the leadership projects from the Carrie Martin kids, the golf course, Prairie Star, Heron Point. A lot of our developments send our 2J sends their kids to that elementary school. And they're losing funds. Unfortunately, the district used to cover the special costs to make this a Leader in Me school. You'd actually have to pay for the copyright on it, and that's what sets the school apart. And it's only $6,000, but the district couldn't pick it up this year, so they're trying to fundraise, and they're asking around Loveland of how they can get it done. So I had some ideas of maybe talking to Rotary, and maybe there's some opportunities for us to help them out. Seems like such a small little thing that I can't believe they can't get covered.
How many of our kids attend?
I thought it was half, and then the principal said, she said, at least. So maybe it's more than half now. There's some county kids in there too, but anyway. And then, Chris and I met with CDOT and about Spartan Avenue connection. Really, they gave us some ideas of how we could move forward to make that Spartan Avenue connect. But I don't know if Chris, you have anything to add, but I think it's just kind of up to the developers' engineering team to meet with CDOT's engineering team, but it seemed like a clear path forward right now.
I think we're getting close. It's kind of a long and sordid tale, but that's probably a good summary.
And that's all I have. I'll turn it over to staff.
Not much for me tonight. Just thank you for responding to Karina's emails. Hopefully she's not flooding your inbox too much. But trying to get some dates scheduled The first round of dates we sent out for strategic planning, couldn't find any that had kind of unanimous availability. We're trying to mix in weekdays, which I know are tough, and with a handful of Saturdays. But as we get into the summer, Saturdays are limited availability because of events and other things going on, people taking vacations and whatever. So we sent out another round of dates for you to consider. Please respond to that poll if you would do us that favor. But thank you all for responding and connecting with our strategic planning facilitator. Those all got scheduled in May. So anyway, thank you for that. Also sent out a SharePoint folder, Karina did today, that includes a long list of resources, a lot of CML resources in there, annual budget, effectively every master plan that we've adopted in the last 6 years. They should all be in one spot. All those are publicly available on our website and other places, but we put them all in one consolidated location for you guys to review as the board member code of conduct and other things. So we did set that up as view only so that we're not adding and taking away from, but just wanted to let you know that that is in your inbox and those resources are available, and we'll likely add to it as we go. I would expect that to be kind of a living repository.
Excellent.
That's it.
All right. Yes, thank you, council.
I actually have an update. So first of all, thanks for having me, and I appreciate it. Second of all, I do have something. So Kendra, Catherine, and me discussed ballot questions 1A and 3A. So 1A, of course, lost, and 3A, of course, won. We've determined, after reading state law, that the board is not going to have to do anything about it. We'll just work with staff to implement it, so you won't see anything coming your way. That doesn't mean we ignored it or anything. It's just it passed and it's done. So just wanted to give that update.
Kind of like instead of the board making decisions, the citizens did. So
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yep.
Excellent. Chief, anything?
Not tonight.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and adjourn.